Welcome to NTD Good Morning.
Here are today's top stories. Reactions coming in to President Trump's peace plan for Gaza, what other countries, Israeli officials, and hostage families are saying as they wait for a response from Hamas terrorists.
The U.S. government is on track for a shutdown tonight at midnight after a White House meeting failed to get Democrats on board. We're going to have the latest.
The investigation into Sunday's Michigan church shooting continues. Officials are working to establish the motive of the attack, which left 4 people dead.
A tale of 2 states. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry calls for federal help to tackle violent crime, while Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker pushes back against federal agents.
The Caribbean braces for back-to-back hurricanes with dangerous flooding and rip currents. Warnings are in effect along the U.S. East Coast.
Hundreds marched in Toronto to call for an end to the Chinese regime's persecution of Falun Gong, urging governments worldwide to take action against what they call transnational repression.
This is NTD Good Morning, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here are Stephanie Cox and Carrie Dunst.
Good morning. Thank you for being with us.
Today's Tuesday, September 30th. You're watching NTD Good Morning. In today's top news, President Trump unveiled his 20-point plan to end the Gaza war while meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday at the White House.
NTD's Washington correspondent Mari Otsu brings us more.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Trump were here in the state dining room, and President Trump is announcing his 20-point plan to end the war in Gaza. So the plan lays out an immediate ceasefire and a phased withdrawal of Israeli troops. And if and when Hamas accepts the deal, Hamas must then release all hostages, both living and dead, within 72 hours. Gaza will then have a temporary transitional government overseen and supervised by a so-called Board of Peace, which will be headed by President Trump himself. And here's the president expressing his hope for Palestine after the war comes to an end. Watch.
And I challenge the Palestinians to take responsibility for their destiny, because that's what we're giving them. We're giving them responsibility for their destiny, fully condemn and prohibit terrorism and earn their way to a brighter future. They don't want the life that they've had. They've had a rough life with Hamas.
President Trump's proposal also states that once all the hostages are released, Israel will then release 1,700 Gazans who were detained after the October 7 attacks. And any Hamas members who commit to a peaceful coexistence and agree to lay down their weapons will be granted amnesty. President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, who says he accepts the deal, are calling on Hamas to also accept it, but are prepared for this if Hamas rejects it. Watch.
Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible. They're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it. But I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, Bibi, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do.
But if Hamas rejects your plan, Mr. President, or if they supposedly accept it and then basically do everything to counter it, then Israel will finish the job by itself.
This is coming just after President Trump hosted a trilateral phone call with Prime Minister Netanyahu and Prime Minister Al-Thani of Qatar, a key intermediary with Hamas. In this call, Netanyahu apologized for unintentionally killing a Qatari serviceman during Israel's missile strike against Hamas targets in Doha. He also promised that Israel will not attack Qatar again in the future.
And reactions are pouring in from around the world after President Trump revealed his Gaza peace plan. Arab states, Palestinians, and hostage families are responding to the proposal. Let's take a look.
8 Arab and Muslim countries have welcomed President Trump's announcement of a proposal to end the war in Gaza, including Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey. But while supportive of the effort, they stopped short of fully endorsing the U.S. plan. The Palestinian Authority, which governs the West Bank, also signaled its willingness to engage. It pledged to carry out reforms required by the plan, including new elections and ending payments to families of terrorists. Israel's prime minister, however, expressed doubt about Palestinian leadership in its current state.
I appreciate your firm position that the PA could have no role whatsoever in Gaza without undergoing a radical and genuine transformation. It won't come as a surprise to you that the vast majority of Israelis have no faith that the PA Leopard will change its spots.
Families of hostages taken by the Hamas terrorist group also reacted with cautious optimism. Many gathered in Tel Aviv to watch Trump's announcement on their phones.
We were happy to hear that Trump saw us, that he heard us calling for ending this war and bringing all the hostages, the lives and the dead, home.
I am more optimistic, although I am still a bit afraid to be so optimistic.
The official social media account of the hostages and missing families called the present moment a historic turning point. Activists said the plan could finally bring an end to the bloody war.
It looks like finally, we have a deal to end the war, the bloody war in Gaza, and bring all our people back home. This is very, very good news.
But not everyone is welcoming the plan. The Palestinian Islamic Jihad group, an ally of Hamas, criticized the plan. The terrorist group's chief said he considered Trump and Netanyahu's announcement a recipe to blow up the region. Still, Western leaders like French President Emmanuel Macron and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni expressed optimism and urged Hamas to engage. Trump's 20-point plan calls for a ceasefire, prisoner exchanges, and a transitional governing body for Gaza. Israel's ambassador to the UN told CNN they're waiting for an answer now from Hamas.
We will be patient. We are skeptical when it comes to Hamas, but I think today Hamas is isolated.
Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff told Fox News on Monday he thinks this proposal is different from previous ones.
We have so much widespread support from all of the Gulf Coast Arab countries. We have widespread support from the Europeans.
But with Hamas silent so far, the fate of the proposal and of the hostages remains uncertain.
And we'll have more analysis coming up on the Gaza peace plan. But first, when the clock strikes midnight, the government will shut down following the unsuccessful Congressional party leaders' last-minute meeting with President Trump at the White House yesterday. Democrats have drawn a line in the sand, feeling that this will be their best opportunity to repeal parts of the One Big Beautiful Bill, while Republicans want a 7-week CR to negotiate each point one at a time while the government continues to function. Joining us now to discuss the looming shutdown is Mike Leon. He's an NTD News contributor and host of the Can We Please Talk podcast. Mike, thanks for joining us as always this morning. Twice in 1 week for me. It's an honor. Less than 24 hours now till the government shutdown. What are the scenarios that you believe are most likely to play out today?
Kerry, good to see you as always. Twice in 1 week. It is a surprise and a treat, right? So look, this is what's going to happen, Kerry, because this is what always happens, because there's only been 4 shutdowns, I think, in the last decade plus. 3 of them obviously are occurring back in that 2018 period. I think we're going to get exactly what you said, which was the latter half, which is you're going to see some type of continuing resolution be signed today. I know there's going to be something put to the floor later today to vote on. I don't think the votes are still there yet. Nothing has changed. Everything that you summarized before is still true. Democrats want certain parts of the tax credit from the ACA to remain, which would impact, millions of Americans, because those are set to expire at midnight later tonight. Republicans, and you saw yesterday J.D. Vance and some other Republicans, Mike Johnson, John Thune, all mentioning that, this is a game of chicken and this is a game of bluff right now. And they don't want to even touch that part of it. They have a clean CR that's ready to go. And this will give them the time to allow the debate of all these topics and the government to continue to be working, and obviously everybody continue to get paid and nobody be furloughed, including the non-essential workers. So I think what you're going to see is the chicken come home to roost right around 10 p.m., 11 p.m. or something like that. You're going to get some type of CR, and we're going to continue this, and we're going to punt this football down to 45 days from now, where you and I, Kerry, will be discussing another looming government shutdown.
It seems like Schumer took flack the last time the shutdown was looming, and he's taking a stronger posture. Some feel like this is their best opportunity, this moment of leverage, to extract more changes to, as you had mentioned, the One Big Beautiful Bill. So you don't think that in this game of chicken that they'll demand some type of a concession or win in order to go forward with the 7-week CR?
Yeah, so here's the thing for everybody to understand, right? Like the politics angle of this is Republicans control everything, the House, the Senate, the executive branch. But there are still rules in place and parameters. They don't control it by too much, right? And so the vote threshold still needs some Democratic support. So this is the reason why you're seeing Republicans blame Democrats for the shutdown. And this is the exact opposite reason why you see Democrats saying, hey, you control everything. You don't need us. Just go ahead and do this. And that's why you see the back and forth. I think to answer your question broadly, Carrie, we were talking about this in our last episode about the times when Republicans were in the minority position and they were able to at least impart some of their, measures through Mitch McConnell in terms of whether it be stall tactics or measures like this to be able to push forward a Republican agenda. And I think right now, Chuck Schumer, he's getting a lot of heat. As I talk to a lot of Democratic lawmakers, strategists that come on my program, he's getting a lot of heat internally just for his leadership style. Some of his recent comments on television about negotiating with Republicans, he feels they'll act in good faith. So I think right now, him and Jeffries are up against it, and they realize that the public optics of the Democratic Party and them specifically in leadership roles is coming to a head right now where people are not very happy about it. This is their last stand, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending upon how you look at it. And so they know there's nothing else that they can do right here. They've got to hold strong on this. And these are the two things that they have mentioned to the White House yesterday in the negotiations that they want to hold strong on. I think you'll see some type of concession come down. Unfortunately, I think it'll be on the Republican side because they know the optics of controlling all of the phases of government. But like I said, Carrie, it's fun to watch, but it's also annoying for those workers right now, especially the non-essential ones, that their status is in limbo of whether or not they'll have benefits, they'll have pay coming through, even the essential workers that'll have to work without getting paid up until a certain point. So it's not fun for those that are waiting.
No, certainly a pit in your stomach not knowing if tomorrow you're not on the payroll. Certainly distressing. Now, I want you to break down a little bit where the biggest gaps are. I know this ACA subsidy is one of the major things. Johnson has been countered by saying if the government shuts down, all that funding that was going to rural hospitals then gets clawed back. But where do you see the biggest bones of contention?
Yeah, I think it lies truly in there, and mainly because of their public comments that they've spoken about, right? So in terms of the One Big Beautiful Bill, and again, some of that won't pass until 2027 for people that don't know about when some of this bill will go into effect. But Democrats have argued that this will, remove services for Medicaid and Medicare recipients out there. So they've always, done the pointing to of, at least 15 or so million people across the U.S. would lose coverage with respect to this. So in coming up at midnight tonight, Carrie, everything that's set to expire from these Obamacare, Affordable Care Act tax credits that low-income families tend to take advantage of, let's be honest about it. And that's where these tax credits are set to expire, that if you qualify, obviously, from this FPL level, if you qualify for this, you could take advantage of it. Jeffries and Schumer have found this and have said, back to your original point, this is a way to push back on the One Big Beautiful Bill before it goes into existence by getting Republicans in front of this from a messaging standpoint and say, hey, look, they want to cut something that you're already taking advantage of by midnight tonight. If you don't do it, it's going to expire. This is the millions of families it's going to affect. And those credits, a lot of families take advantage of. I know some here that live down in the Florida area, and they'll be affected by that. And like I said, this is truly part of the reason why I feel like people don't understand civics and politics in this country, because these are little things that they don't look at. They just see the infighting between Democrats and Republicans, and they say, this is why I don't want to be involved. But no, this is going to actually affect you come midnight if nothing is passed from a CR perspective, which will extend all of this over 45 days. So it's important for folks out there to understand, if you already take advantage of this program, this is one of the things that's being discussed right now. That's the central through line to potentially a government shutdown or it being avoided.
Well, we're going to take some comfort in your prediction that by 10 or 11 o'clock tonight, something will happen. We know, though, that there had been a shutdown in Trump's first term, hoping that can be avoided. Always appreciate your insight. Mike Leon, thanks for joining.
Thanks, Gary.
And another legal victory for President Trump. YouTube has agreed to pay $24.5 million to settle a lawsuit filed by the president.
The case was brought over the suspension of Trump's account after the January 6th Capitol breach in 2021.
Under the settlement, $22 million will go to a nonprofit dedicated to helping build the White House State Ballroom.
The rest will be paid to other plaintiffs, including the American Conservative Union. After Meta and X, YouTube is now the last social media firm to settle a lawsuit with President Trump.
And President Trump has announced a new round of tariffs.
Trump yesterday signed a proclamation. He's imposing new duties on imported timber, lumber, as well as furniture.
Starting October 14th, new U.S. tariffs will hit the wood products sector, 10% on lumber and 25% on furniture, with sharper increases coming next year.
In January 2026, duties on upholstered wood products will climb to 30%, kitchen cabinets and vanities 50%, targeting imports from countries without U.S. trade deals.
The White House says the move will strengthen supply chains, boost industrial resilience, and create high-quality jobs. President Trump added that the tariffs would spur investment, drive innovation, and increase domestic production, especially for industries vital to national defense, noting the U.S. military spends over $10 billion a year on construction projects.
Officials argued that this policy is needed to stop losing market share to Chinese furniture imports, which the Commerce Department has deemed a national security threat. But critics in the furniture industry warn that the tariffs, they could disrupt supply chains, raise prices for American consumers.
Next, President Trump will attend a gathering of top generals later this morning alongside Secretary of War Pete Hegseth.
He's expected to deliver remarks there, so stay tuned. We're going to be covering that, and we'll bring you there live as soon as it comes up.
Okay, but up ahead, the Caribbean braces for back-to-back hurricanes with dangerous flooding and rip currents. Warnings are in effect along the U.S. East Coast.
And a tale of two states between Louisiana and Illinois. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry calls for federal help to tackle violent crime. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is pushing back. He does not want federal agents in Illinois. We're going to bring you that and more. Stay with us.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now. With your gift of $19 a month, we'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the #1 supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
People's reactions to me, people were like, what are you doing? What is going on? You look amazing. You have a glow about you.
What makes Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen stand out from other brands? 10 types of collagen. It's grass-fed, pasture-raised with vitamin C and probiotics. It's proven to reduce joint discomfort rapidly, continuously, and persistently. It improves the appearance of crow's feet after 4 weeks and improves skin tone after 8 weeks. And it promotes hair thickness, growth, and a reduction in hair breakage.
It has transformed everything from my hair. Like, my hair was starting to kind of just, come out, and I don't have that anymore. My skin feels amazing.
Call the number on your screen and find out how to get a free bottle when you order, plus free shipping and our 30-day money-back guarantee. And as a bonus, we will include Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin's revolutionary book, Multi-Collagen Makeover, free with your order, plus free shipping and free returns.
I have implicit trust in Dr. Axe because the plan worked. I'm living proof of it.
This is the collagen protein that is backed by clinical studies. It's what my family uses, it's what I use, and I know you're gonna benefit in a big way as well.
Love the results or get your money back. This special TV offer is not available in stores. Call the number on your screen or go online now.
Welcome back to NTD Good Morning. Severe weather is posing a double threat to the Caribbean and the U.S. East Coast.
Tropical storm Imelda gaining strength, and the National Hurricane Center predicts it's going to become a hurricane today.
Forecasters warn of rip currents, dangerous surf, beach erosion, and flooding along the coast. Cuba's prime minister said today that 2 people died after Imelda struck the island.
Meanwhile, Hurricane Humberto is churning as major hurricane in the Atlantic, though forecasters say it will not reach land, fortunately.
Forecasters also say the 2 systems could start rotating around each other as they get closer, leading to what's known as Fujiwara effect.
North and South Carolina both issued states of emergency ahead of the storm. South Carolina lifted its emergency warning yesterday, though.
And we'll keep you updated there. Now to the church shooting in Michigan. As we learn more about the suspect, authorities are looking into possible motives after 4 people were killed in that attack.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said on Fox News that FBI Director Kash Patel described the suspect as someone who, quote, hated people of the Mormon faith. She added that search warrants are being executed at the suspect's home and that investigators are working to determine why he would commit such an act of evil. Here's NTD's Arlene Richards with more.
Several investigators on Monday said they are focused on finding out what motivated a former Marine to allegedly ram a pickup truck into a church and open fire. Authorities say the suspect, identified as Thomas Jacob Sanford, age 40, plowed through the front door and began shooting with a semi-automatic rifle. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Michigan was in the middle of a crowded service at the time of the shooting. According to an official from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, the attacker apparently used gasoline to start a fire, setting the church ablaze. 4 people were killed and 8 were injured, 2 of whom are still in critical condition. At a news conference Monday, the acting head of the FBI Detroit field office said they were working together with all levels of government, local, state, and federal.
The FBI is investigating this as an act of targeted violence, and we are continuing to work to determine a motive. In the past 24 hours, our investigative squads and specialty teams have been out all night, exhausting leads, some of which have been coming in from the public via tips.
He said his office is getting assistance from other field offices across the country. According to the local police chief, they are still clearing out the church, but everyone is now accounted for. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer also attended the press conference.
As I said, I'm here as the governor, but I'm also here as a fellow Michigander whose heart is breaking by another mass shooting in a place that is supposed to be defined by togetherness.
Whitmer said this is one of the many shootings that have occurred in recent years, including at schools, stores, parades, festivals, and houses of worship. She said she had spoken with President Trump, who offered his condolences. The attack is the second on an American church in little over a month. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
And we'll keep you updated on that tragedy also. Next, Louisiana says it needs help. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry is asking Washington for assistance in tackling a violent crime surge across the state. NTD's Daniel Monahan reports on that, and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker pushing back on any federal agents in his state.
Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry announced he has formally asked for federal assistance to activate up to 1,000 Louisiana National Guard members, speaking on Fox News.
Who would not want help in combating criminals on your streets? Who does not want their communities and their cities to be safe?
Landry said there were ongoing public safety concerns regarding high crime rates throughout the state. The Republican governor says police officers are overwhelmed by the number of homicides, carjackings, and gang violence.
President Trump has amassed the best cabinet of public servants and folks who really want to fight crime, like General Bondi, Secretary Noem, FBI Director Kash Patel. These folks know how to keep Americans safe.
The National Guard soldiers are expected to supplement law enforcement in high crime areas, provide logistical and communication support, and secure critical infrastructure.
The troops are happy to come. Remember, the National Guard are citizen soldiers. They are members. They are the fabric of our communities. They're our neighbors, they're our sons, they're our daughters.
In 2024, Louisiana recorded 520 violent crimes and nearly 2,300 property crimes per 100,000 residents, rates nearly 45% and 30% higher than the national averages. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is singing a different tune. Pritzker on Monday described Homeland Security's request for 100 troops to the state to back up ICE agents in Chicago as sowing fear, intimidation, and division among Americans. Pritzker said, quote, "With one voice, we are telling this unwarranted and unconstitutional occupation to get out of Chicago." Tensions flared last Friday outside an ICE processing facility in Broadville, Illinois. More than 200 protesters gathered near the gate in front of the facility, while dozens more crowded another entrance, chanting, "Arrest ICE, shoot ICE." Federal agents made at least 17 arrests and confiscated a gun from one rioter who was apprehended at the scene. And the Justice Department is suing Minnesota. It accuses the state and several local governments of using sanctuary policies that block immigration enforcement. Attorney General Pam Bondi says the policies defy federal law and put residents at risk. Similar lawsuits have recently been filed against New York, Los Angeles, and Boston. Bondi wrote on X Monday that the rule of law will prevail. The Attorney General says the DOJ is deploying agents to protect ICE facilities, arrest violent agitators on the spot, and bring the strongest federal charges possible. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
The Trump administration is moving to block Harvard University from receiving federal funding, citing alleged civil rights violations. HHS says Harvard failed to address anti-Semitic harassment on campus following last year's Hamas terror attack on Israel, violating Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. HHS has referred the university for formal administrative proceedings, which could result in the loss of funding or government-wide blocks on federal contracts. Officials say this step ensures taxpayer dollars are protected and compliance is enforced. A federal judge ruled earlier this year that the Trump administration had violated the First Amendment. The court said Harvard was already taking steps to address concerns and protect free speech rights on campus.
The superintendent of Iowa's largest school district has been stripped of his license after federal immigration agents arrested him. The Iowa Board of Educational Examiners says Ian Roberts no longer has a legal presence in the United States. Immigration officials say Roberts, a native of Guyana, entered on a student visa in 1999 and has been under a removal order since last year. Authorities say Roberts fled a traffic stop before being arrested with a loaded handgun, a knife, and cash in his district-issued vehicle. School officials said they had no knowledge of his immigration status, noting he had submitted documents verifying his eligibility to work. The school board voted yesterday to place Roberts on unpaid leave. And just in this morning, prosecutors are urging a New York federal judge to sentence Sean Combs to over 11 years in prison for his prostitution-related conviction. They say one accuser still lives in fear of his release.
Defense attorneys are asking for a sentence of no more than 14 months behind bars, with sentencing set for Friday. Combs has been jailed since July for arranging male prostitutes to travel to hotels for sexual encounters with his girlfriends.
Record-breaking cocaine bus numbers are hitting cartels. A Florida-based multi-agency task force seized or disrupted 1 million pounds of cocaine in fiscal year 2025, enough to fill 42 dump trucks and nearly 400 million lethal doses. The Joint Interagency Task Force South says the seizure has denied cartels and narco-terrorists more than $11 billion in revenue. The agency includes the U.S. Coast Guard and works with partner nations across the Caribbean and Central America. Officials say the drug seizure amounts don't include separate strikes on alleged Venezuelan narco-terrorists. The Trump administration has vowed to step up militarily in the Caribbean. targeting well-financed criminal networks that smuggle drugs, arms, and cash toward the U.S.
President Trump, alongside Prime Minister Netanyahu at the White House yesterday, they unveiled a historic 20-point plan for peace between Israel and Palestinians. Joining us now to discuss is Joan Leslie McGill. She's the executive director of the U.S.-Israel Education Association. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. What are some of the most compelling aspects of Trump's 20-point plan in your view?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. When I look at this plan, it's very logical. It is definitely very ambitious. I think I am viewing it through the lens of the Israeli government. And what I see is that Prime Minister Netanyahu got his two main war objectives. They have and continue to be get all of the hostages home and completely decimate Hamas's governing and military capabilities. And so this plan definitely allows for those two war aims. And I think that the Prime Minister felt like that was a win. I think that it remains to be seen if Hamas is going to come to the table and accept this plan. It would certainly be in their best interest, as there were many provisions like giving Hamas militants amnesty. So you would think that they would want to come to the table, but that has not been their game so far, and they have not been inclined to return those hostages for the past 2 years. So we'll see.
Yeah, as you rightly point out, much of the negotiations during the war, Israel had been waiting on Hamas. But this seems a little bit different now. The Arab world seems to have sided with Trump. Do you expect Hamas to accept this plan and follow through?
I really think it is up in the air. I could see it going both ways. I do think they will be under an immense amount of pressure from the Qataris and the Egyptians who want to deliver this win to President Trump. But like I said, they have not been inclined thus far to turn over those hostages who they see as their last leverage. And you can't reform a jihadist. In their mind, they want to take all of this to the very end, and they don't agree that they should negotiate with Israel at all. They don't believe Israel should exist.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And part of the plan, I mean, if you read the 20 points, each one is very logical, as you had pointed out earlier, from the perspective of Israel, because they clearly want security guarantees. But it's really granting every combatant for Hamas, many of which have blood on their hands, full amnesty. And so it seems like if they were ever going to hang up their weapons, in the interest of their own families and the people of Gaza, this would be that opportunity. What pressure are they under today to accept this?
Yes, you're right. If they're ever going to accept a deal, it will be this one. And I think both President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu addressed that. They said, okay, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. And the hard way will be that if Hamas does not agree to this, Israel has the full backing and support of the United States government to finish their offensive in the Gaza Strip. So that's the alternative that we're looking at. And I do think Hamas, like I said, will be under pressure from the Arab countries because those Arab leaders want to deliver this win to the president, who they have been building a relationship with this year. And so I think that we will see if that pressure wins out. As you mentioned, there is the amnesty provision for any Hamas militant that agrees to disarm, and it gives them the option to either stay in the Gaza Strip or to leave and go abroad. I mean, that's a difficult pill to swallow. I imagine that was really hard for Prime Minister Netanyahu to say yes to. But like I said, he ultimately got his two main war aims at the end of all of it.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. Trump had a call with the leader of Qatar where Netanyahu apologized for targeting Hamas on Qatari soil, killing one Qatari. So what do you make of that phone call brokered by Trump?
It's pretty remarkable. You have to understand that Israel and Qatar do not have normalized relations. And, you know, they don't speak, they don't have embassies, they don't exchange diplomats, they don't do business together. And so to have a phone call where the Prime Minister of Israel is speaking directly to the Prime Minister, the Emir of Qatar, for the first time ever is pretty remarkable. I think it shows the strength of the Trump administration's foreign policy right now. And I think that it shows, you know, that the Arab countries will potentially consider normalizing relations with Israel once all of this is over, which is 100% President Trump's aim with this 20-point plan. Let's get the war in Gaza wrapped up, and let's get more Abraham Accords countries to sign on to normalize relations with Israel.
Now, should Hamas not come to the table, it seems like the goal will then be to wipe Hamas out and then proceed with this 20-point plan with them fully out of the picture? Or what do you see happening if Hamas does not come to the table?
I go back to what the president said in their press conference yesterday, which is if Hamas does not come to the table, then Bibi, Prime Minister Netanyahu, you have the full backing of the United States government to go in and finish this. So, whether or not that includes the rest of the provisions of the plan, I would think not. I think because Hamas is not agreeing to their end of the deal, Israel is not likely to agree to some of the concessions they made. And so I doubt it's picking up the plan, although it does provide an interesting framework for moving forward, regardless of whether or not Hamas agrees today. It gives an interesting framework with the Board for Peace and how they plan for the Gaza Strip to be governed in the day after.
And of course, the first point in all of this is the return of the hostages. And in both sides, Israel giving back many Gazans that they're holding in captivity. So hopefully things take a positive turn. We're watching with great interest and appreciate your analysis this morning. Joan Leslie McGill, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
And hundreds marched in Toronto to call for an end to the Chinese regime's persecution of Falun Gong, urging governments worldwide to take action against what they call transnational repression. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
My 15-year-old son, Ethan, and I had a fun and relaxing morning. We returned home, and Ethan walked to his best friend's house an hour later. I heard the ambulance scream by the street, carrying my beautiful boy. Ethan was shot in the head in his best friend's house with an unsecured gun. He had zero chance of survival. The father, the gun owner, he stored his 3 guns and bullets in a shoebox.
How do you feel?
That has to be the most horrific experience that a human could ever have.
David, would you give any advice?
First thing you do is not keep your ammunition with your weapons, and that your weapons need to be locked at all times.
I was a quarterback at Hardaway High School, college first-round draft pick. On and off the field, we were taught to not show any signs of weakness. During the football season, I would stop eating, but I didn't know I was depressed. I thought that something was wrong with me. For 20 plus years was physical. We didn't have any education behind what mental health was. I started to learn it starts here first. If this is together, I'll be better as a father, as a man, and as a husband. Put the importance on your mental health. I'm not scared to talk about it anymore. The first tool is therapy. The second one is positive self-talk. And then journaling, putting your thoughts on paper. We have to redefine what being a strong man is and heal, love your mind.
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat. It always came back.
Okay, here we go, throw it! Yeah.
You probably don't remember what you told me.
That was perfect.
But I heard every word.
Nice.
Welcome back to NTD Good Morning. I'm Carrie Dunst. If you're just joining us now, here are some of today's top headlines. Global reactions to President Trump's Gaza peace plan are pouring in. Arab and Muslim nations welcome the effort, but they stop short of fully endorsing it. The Palestinian Authority signaled it's ready to engage. Families of hostages called it the moment that they've been waiting for, even as they remain cautious about the final outcome. Western leaders now are urging Hamas terrorists accept this proposal. All eyes are now on Hamas. The acting head of the FBI in Detroit's field office said they were working together with all levels of government, local, state, and federal, to investigate the Michigan church shooting that killed 4, injuring 8 as well. Authorities say the suspect, identified as Thomas Jacob Sanford, age 40, he plowed through the front door in his truck and began shooting with a semi-automatic rifle, and then he set fire to the building using an accelerant, expected to be gasoline. According to an official from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, the attacker used gasoline to start fire, and then he continued with his rampage, unfortunately. And Louisiana is asking Washington to help with tackling violent crime. Governor Jeff Landry has requested up to 1,000 National Guard members to support police in the high crime areas. In contrast, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is rejecting federal troops in Chicago, calling it an unconstitutional occupation. Those are this morning's top headlines. And with that, Steph, over to you.
Thanks, Carrie. Next, congressional Democrats are not backing down on their health care demands, raising the possibility of a government shutdown beginning midnight tonight. NTD's Melina Weiskup has the updates. Melina, good morning. Good to see you. Congressional leaders met at the White House yesterday. What came out of that meeting?
Hi, good morning, Steph. It is great to be back with you this morning. So what came out of that meeting is more of the same, Steph, that we've seen over the past month. Democrats continuing to demand Republicans to include in that short-term funding bill a provision to extend Obamacare subsidies. They say this is the only way Republicans will get their votes. Listen to Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer following yesterday's meeting.
We have very large differences on health care and on their ability to undo whatever budget we agree to through rescissions and through impoundment, as well as pocket rescissions. And I think for the first time, the president heard our objections and heard why we needed a bipartisan bill. Their bill has not one iota of Democratic input. That is never how we've done this before.
Now, Republicans, for their part, Steph, say this discussion on health care should be part of a broader budget negotiations, not part of their simple 7-week extension of government fundings that is meant to allow them to continue work on those regular funding bills for 2026 and allow them more room to debate these kind of decisions. Here's the vice president following yesterday's meeting. Listen.
If they want to talk about how to fix American health care policy, let's do it. The Speaker would love to do it. The Senate Majority Leader would love to do it. Let's work on it together. But let's do it in the context of an open government that's providing essential services to the American people. That's all that we're proposing to do. And the fact that they refuse to do that shows how unreasonable their position is. I think we're headed to a shutdown because the Democrats won't do the right thing. I hope they change their mind, but we're going to see.
Now, remember, Steph, the Republican-controlled House has already passed that short-term funding bill to keep the lights on through November, although that failed in the Senate, failing to get the Democrat support needed. Republicans say there's nothing to negotiate on their short-term funding bill because it's simply meant to extend funding levels that Democrats and Republicans already agreed to last year. So basically, to answer your question in a nutshell, the White House meeting yesterday did little to nothing to prevent the possibility of a shutdown at midnight tonight.
Certainly still looks like some flames flying in most directions. What happens to the federal workforce if the government shuts down?
So I think a lot of people think that the entire government will shut down. They'll stop getting mail. They'll stop receiving Social Security checks. But actually, it's a partial shutdown where some essential services will be kept, like the mail service. So people will continue to get mail. Social Security checks will continue to go out. FBI and CIA officials will continue to work, among others. Though those who are still going to work won't get paid, Steph, until Congress acts. Then those who are furloughed during the time that the government is shut down will actually get payback for the time that they were out due to a law that was signed in 2019. But this time, consequences will be more lasting than previous government shutdowns. That's because the Trump administration staff has directed federal agencies to use this government shutdown as an opportunity to get a better understanding of how they can reduce the federal workforce permanently. This would be to further the administration's plans of slashing the overall size of the federal workforce. Steph?
Plenty to watch here, and we'll be speaking to you later today, I'm sure. Thank you so much for those updates, Melina. Next, hundreds of Falun Gong practitioners and supporters marched through downtown Toronto on Sunday. Falun Gong is a spiritual practice based on meditation and the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. The march called for an end to the Chinese regime's persecution of Falun Gong practitioners.
But this isn't just a story about repression happening over in China. It highlights the CCP's expanding reach in its attempts to export censorship and intimidation overseas here in Canada and the U.S. Have a closer look.
The parade stretched for several city blocks, with participants carrying banners that read, "Stop the persecution of Falun Gong" and "End transnational repression." The procession, made up of Falun Gong practitioners and supporters, concluded outside the Chinese consulate.
Today, we gather here to call out to the Chinese Communist Party, to call out to the world. The CCP regime must be stopped now. We do not consent to these crimes, nor can we remain silent.
In 1999, the Chinese Communist Party launched a nationwide campaign to eradicate Falun Gong, fearing its widespread popularity could challenge the regime's control. Since then, adherents have been detained in prisons, labor camps, and so-called re-education camps. Yet, despite this, practitioners around the world continue to share accounts of improvement to both mind and body.
About 5 years ago, I used to be a degenerate drug addict thief, and because of Falun Dafa, I actually became sober and changed my life completely.
And this practice is peaceful and it's good, and it promotes harmony in society, harmony in the family, harmony within the person's own heart. And so it doesn't even qualify, nothing qualifies for persecution.
According to practitioners, Falun Gong brings peace and harmony to individuals and families. Yet the Chinese regime has continued its persecution and even extended it overseas.
They try to influence people even all over the world using transnational repression. By silencing voices here in Canada, they keep the persecution going on in China. And the Chinese Communist Party has committed these horrific crimes against Falun Gong practitioners, and their top priority is to cover up these crimes.
We're on Canadian soil, we're free to practice. When people who are Canadian citizens are being persecuted from a foreign government, a foreign entity, that's wrong on every level.
I just hope, the right thing is done and that stops, because that's terrible.
At the rally, participants urged Canadian and international authorities to act, framing the campaign as both a grave human rights violation and a worldwide fight for justice.
For 26 years of persecution, Falun Gong practitioners have carried these values around the world. We are engaged in a battle between good and evil, and we will succeed. We will win.
NTD News, Canada.
And coming up, lawmakers are in North Carolina to tackle violent crime and repeat offenders. Victims' families are sharing their experiences and demanding accountability. We'll have that story and much more coming up.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste, and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth.
without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one, get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one, get one free offer goes away.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
I trod on my glasses yesterday, and I had to pay up front for a new pair that I can't even pick up for another 10 days. So I looked for another way, and I found Select Specs. I ordered online. My new glasses just arrived this morning, and I can pay over the next few weeks. This is the way to buy glasses.
See now, pay later with Select Specs. Next day delivery and deferred payment options only at selectspecs.com.
Welcome back to NTD Good Morning. In Charlotte, North Carolina, yesterday, congressional lawmakers held a hearing on violent crime and pretrial release policies.
Victims' families shared their stories, highlighting failures in the justice system. NTD's Christina Corona has more, and a warning: this report includes content that some viewers may find disturbing.
Washington, D.C. lawmakers were in Charlotte, North Carolina on Monday for a victims of violent crime hearing, tackling solutions to rising violence. The session follows the deadly stabbing of Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska on the city's light rail in August. Congressman Jeff Vandrew said a magistrate judge let Irina's killer walk free even after his own mother called him dangerous.
The magistrate judge said, well, this is the 14th time he committed a crime. But, I think it'll be his last because he signed a handwritten note that he's going to be good. And now a young woman, and there's other stories, it's not the only story, but this young, beautiful woman with her entire future in front of her, working 3 jobs, living the American dream, believing in America, she's gone.
Family members of crime victims testified, including Mia Alderman, the grandmother of Mary Collins, who was murdered in 2020 when she was only 20 years old.
She was stabbed over 130 times. Mary was then wrapped in plastic and hidden inside a mattress.
She says Mary's case has still not gone to trial. She said the pain is made worse by the way the justice system has dealt with the suspects in Mary's murder.
2 of them were released on bond, as if their crimes were minor, as if they stole a candy bar or maybe broke in a car or something.
Steve Federico, father of 22-year-old Logan Federico, also testified. His daughter was fatally shot during a home burglary in May by a repeat offender.
She was 5'3". She weighed 115 pounds. Bang! Dead. Gone. Why? Because Alexander Devontae Dickey, who was arrested 39 times, 25 felonies was on the street. He should have been in jail for over 140 years for all the crimes he committed.
Charlotte Mecklenburg police officer Justin Campbell, who was injured while saving fellow officers during a 2024 ambush that killed 4 officers and left him with a leg that had to be amputated, also testified.
Why is it that we take people who commit these heinous crimes and we do not hold them accountable for their actions? We sit there and we try to give it a reason as a mental health issue or some other type of issues that realistically doesn't take blame.
Congressman Vandrew says safety and American values must come first, and that serious, violent, repeat crimes demand strict action. Christina Corona, NTD News.
And officials say a Listeria outbreak linked to recalled frozen pasta meals has caused 4 deaths and 19 hospitalizations in 15 states.
The CDC has issued a recall for ready-to-eat pasta dishes sold at Walmart and Trader Joe's.
The recalled items include market-side linguine with meatballs and Cajun-style chicken fettuccine Alfredo.
Federal officials say the contaminated pasta products were made by Nate's Fine Foods.
Albertsons Companies has also recalled several deli products that may contain Listeria.
Consumers are urged to throw away or return these recalled items in thoroughly clean containers and refrigerators. So we'll be keeping you posted as updates on that story comes in. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back in the next hour. Stay with us.
Divinely inspired traditional oil painting inspires compassion. Artwork created in truth and beauty illuminates a path to goodness. Rediscover traditional art, revive classical culture. We warmly invite oil painters from around the world to participate in the 7th NTD International Figure Painting Competition, a celebration of classical realism. Please visit oilpainting.ntdtv.com.
What if kids in America didn't have to go to bed hungry tonight? What if our moms, dads, and grandparents could put healthy food on the table every day to help us grow strong? What if all of our friends and neighbors had fresh food too, and there was no hunger at all in America? And what if there was a way today for you to help? Call now or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. So many of us don't have enough food to eat, but your monthly gift means families across the country and in your community can fill plates with food. Kids can get healthy meals year-round, even when school's out, and our neighbors can have fresh food. Food that moms, dads, entire families need to thrive. But right now, more people are facing hunger. Feeding America works from coast to coast with partner food banks, food pantries, and meal programs. It takes all of us to make that happen. Will you help too? Please call the number on your screen or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give just $19 a month, and we'll send you this free canvas grocery bag. It's our way of saying thank you for helping to end hunger for our neighbors. Because no kid, no mom or dad, nobody should go hungry in America. Nobody. So what if today was the day you could help nourish futures for our friends, our families, for all of us? Ending hunger is possible. What if we end it together? Call or give online today at helpfeedingamerica.org and your gift can be doubled. Thank you.
Life's daily battles are not meant to be fought alone.
We're not powerless, so long as we don't lose sight of what's important.
Don't be afraid to seize that moment to talk to your friends.
Cloud, you okay?
Because checking in on a friend can create a safe space.
The first step on our new journey. You coming?
Reach out to a friend about their mental health. Seize the awkward. It's totally worth it.
There are real consequences to controlled media. and NTD's founders know them firsthand. Our freedom of thought is the price. This is the lesson that guides us in everything we do.
Yeah, so there's the tear gas there.
We know the value of a free society. And we take seriously the responsibility to preserve it. We are NTD.
Welcome to NTD Good Morning.
Here are today's top stories. The U.S. government is on track for a shutdown tonight at midnight after a White House meeting failed to get Democrats on board. We'll have the latest updates for you.
President Trump will attend a gathering of top generals later this morning alongside Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. He's expected to deliver remarks there. We'll be covering it for you live here on NTD.
Reactions coming in to President Trump's peace plan for Gaza. What other countries, Israeli officials, and hostage families are saying as they wait for a response from Hamas terrorists.
Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry calls for federal help to tackle the violent crime in his state, while Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is pushing back against federal agents.
The Caribbean braces for back-to-back hurricanes with dangerous flooding and rip currents. Warnings are in effect across the U.S. East Coast.
And a conservative activist in New York is violently attacked on camera, but the charges were dropped after DA Alvin Bragg's office missed a filing deadline. NTD News spoke with Savannah Craven Antio about her case.
And tap into your purpose and find your fast track to success. Whatever your endeavor, let authenticity be your guiding light. That's the message from our guest who had a transformation of his own. We'll have that for you.
This is NTD Good Morning, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here are Stephanie Cox and Carrie Dunst.
Good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Today's Tuesday, September 30th. You're watching NTD Good Morning. In today's top news, Congressional Democrats are not backing down on their health care demands, raising the possibility of a government shutdown beginning midnight tonight. And we'll have that. Melina, good morning. Good to see you. Congressional leaders met at the White House yesterday. What came out of that meeting?
Hi, good morning, Steph. It is great to be back with you this morning. So what came out of that meeting is more of the same, Steph, that we've seen over the past month. Democrats continuing to demand Republicans to include in that short-term funding bill a provision to extend Obamacare subsidies. They say this is the only way Republicans will get their votes. Listen to Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer following yesterday's meeting.
We have very large differences on health care and on their ability to undo whatever budget we agree to through rescissions and through impoundment, as well as pocket rescissions. And I think for the first time, the president heard our objections and heard why we needed a bipartisan bill. Their bill has not one iota of Democratic input. That is never how we've done this before.
Now, Republicans, for their part, Steph, say this discussion on health care should be part of a broader budget negotiations, not part of their simple 7-week extension of government fundings that is meant to allow them to continue work on those regular funding bills for 2026 and allow them more room to debate these kind of decisions. Here's the vice president following yesterday's meeting. Listen.
If they want to talk about how to fix American health care policy, let's do it. The Speaker would love to do it. The Senate Majority Leader would love to do it. Let's work on it together. But let's do it in the context of an open government that's providing essential services to the American people. That's all that we're proposing to do. And the fact that they refuse to do that shows how unreasonable their position is. I think we're headed to a shutdown because the Democrats won't do the right thing. I hope they change their mind, but we're going to see.
Now, Now, remember, Steph, the Republican-controlled House has already passed that short-term funding bill to keep the lights on through November, although that failed in the Senate, failing to get the Democrat support needed. Republicans say there's nothing to negotiate on their short-term funding bill because it's simply meant to extend funding levels that Democrats and Republicans already agreed to last year. So basically, to answer your question in a nutshell, the White House meeting yesterday did little to nothing to prevent the possibility of a shutdown at midnight tonight.
Certainly still looks like some flames flying in most directions. What happens to the federal workforce if the government shuts down?
So I think a lot of people think that the entire government will shut down. They'll stop getting mail. They'll stop receiving Social Security checks. But actually, it's a partial shutdown where some essential services will be kept, like the mail service. So people will continue to get mail. Social Security checks will continue to go out. FBI and CIA officials will continue to work, among others. Though those who are still going to work won't get paid, Steph, until Congress acts. Then those who are furloughed during the time that the government is shut down will actually get payback for the time that they were out due to a law that was signed in 2019. But this time, consequences will be more lasting than previous government shutdowns. That's because the Trump administration, Steph, has directed federal agencies to use this government shutdown as an opportunity to get a better understanding of how they can reduce the federal workforce permanently. This would be to further the administration's plans of slashing the overall size of the federal workforce. Steph?
Plenty to watch here, and we'll be speaking to you later today, I'm sure. Thank you so much for those updates, Melina. President Trump unveiled his 20-point plan to end the Gaza war while meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday at the White House.
NTD's Washington correspondent Mari Otsu has more.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Trump were here in the state dining room, and President Trump is announcing his 20-point plan to end the war in Gaza. So the plan lays out an immediate ceasefire and a phased withdrawal of Israeli troops. And if and when Hamas accepts the deal, Hamas must then release all hostages, both living and dead, within 72 hours. Gaza will then have a temporary transitional government overseen and supervised by a so-called Board of Peace, which will be headed by President Trump himself. And here's the president expressing his hope for Palestine after the war comes to an end. Watch.
And I challenge the Palestinians to take responsibility for their destiny, because that's what we're giving them. We're giving them responsibility for their destiny, fully condemn and prohibit terrorism and earn their way to a brighter future. They don't want the life that they've had. They've had a rough life with Hamas.
President Trump's proposal also states that once all the hostages are released, Israel will then release 1,700 Gazans who were detained after the October 7 attacks. And any Hamas members who commit to a peaceful coexistence and agree to lay down their weapons will be granted amnesty. President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, who says he accepts the deal, are calling on Hamas to also accept it, but are prepared for this if Hamas rejects it. Watch.
Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible. They're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it. But I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, Bibi, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do.
But if Hamas rejects your plan, Mr. President, or if they supposedly accept it and then basically do everything to counter it, then Israel will finish the job by itself.
This is coming just after President Trump hosted a trilateral phone call with Prime Minister Netanyahu and Prime Minister Al-Thani of Qatar, a key intermediary with Hamas. In this call, Netanyahu apologized for unintentionally killing a Qatari serviceman during Israel's missile strike against Hamas targets in Doha. He also promised that Israel will not attack Qatar again in the future.
Reactions are pouring in from around the world after President Trump unveiled his Gaza peace plan. Arab states, Palestinians, and hostage families are responding to the proposal. Let's take a look.
8 Arab and Muslim countries have welcomed President Trump's announcement of a proposal to end the war in Gaza, including Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey. But while supportive of the effort, they stopped short of fully endorsing the U.S. plan. The Palestinian Authority, which governs the West Bank, also signaled its willingness to engage. It pledged to carry out reforms required by the plan, including new elections and ending payments to families of terrorists. Israel's prime minister, however, expressed doubt about Palestinian leadership in its current state.
I appreciate your firm position that the PA could have no role whatsoever in Gaza without undergoing a radical and genuine transformation. It won't come as a surprise to you that the vast majority of Israelis have no faith that the PA Leopard will change its spots.
Families of hostages taken by the Hamas terrorist group also reacted with cautious optimism. Many gathered in Tel Aviv to watch Trump's announcement on their phones.
We were happy to hear that Trump saw us, that he heard us calling for ending this war and bringing all the hostages, the lives and the dead, home.
I am more optimistic, although I am still a bit afraid to be so optimistic.
The official social media account of the hostages and missing families called the present moment a historic turning point. Activists said the plan could finally bring an end to the bloody war.
It looks like finally, we have a deal to end the war, the bloody war in Gaza, and bring all our people back home. This is very, very good news.
But not everyone is welcoming the plan. The Palestinian Islamic Jihad group, an ally of Hamas, criticized the plan. The terrorist group's chief said he considered Trump and Netanyahu's announcement a recipe to blow up the region. Still, Western leaders like French President Emmanuel Macron and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni express optimism and urge Hamas to engage. Trump's 20-point plan calls for a ceasefire, prisoner exchanges, and a transitional governing body for Gaza. Israel's ambassador to the UN told CNN they're waiting for an answer now from Hamas.
We will be patient. We are skeptical when it comes to Hamas, but I think today Hamas is isolated.
Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff told Fox News on Monday he thinks this proposal is different from previous ones.
We have so much widespread support from all of the Gulf Coast Arab countries. We have widespread support from the Europeans.
But with Hamas silent so far, the fate of the proposal and of the hostages remains uncertain.
And next, severe weather is posing a double threat to the Caribbean and the U.S. East Coast.
Tropical storm Imelda is gaining strength, and the National Hurricane Center predicts it's going to become a hurricane today.
Forecasters warn of rip currents, dangerous surf, beach erosion, and flooding along the coast. Cuba's prime minister said yesterday that 2 people died there after Imelda struck the island.
Meanwhile, Hurricane Humberto is churning as a major hurricane in the Atlantic, though forecasters say it will not reach land, fortunately.
Forecasters are also saying the 2 systems could start rotating around each other
as they get closer, leading to what's known as the Fujiwara effect. North and South Carolina both issued states of emergency ahead of the storms. South Carolina lifted its emergency warning yesterday.
Now to the church shooting in Michigan. As we learn more about the suspect, authorities are looking into possible motives after 4 people were killed in that attack.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said on Fox News that FBI Director Kash Patel described the suspect as someone who, quote, hated people of the Mormon faith. She added that search warrants are being executed at the suspect's home and that investigators are working to determine why he would commit, quote, such an act of evil. Here's NTD's Arlene Richards with the details.
Several investigators on Monday said they are focused on finding out what motivated a former Marine to allegedly ram a pickup truck into a church and open fire. Authorities say the suspect, identified as Thomas Jacob Sanford, age 40, plowed through the front door and began shooting with a semi-automatic rifle. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Michigan was in the middle of a crowded service at the time of the shooting. According to an official from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, the attacker apparently used gasoline to start a fire, setting the church ablaze. 4 people were killed and 8 were injured, 2 of whom are still in critical condition. At a news conference Monday, the acting head of the FBI Detroit field office said they were working together with all levels of government, local, state, and federal.
The FBI is investigating this as an act of targeted violence, and we are continuing to work to determine a motive. In the past 24 hours, our investigative squads and specialty teams have been out all night, exhausting leads, some of which have been coming in from the public via tips.
He said his office is getting assistance from other field offices across the country. According to the local police chief, they are still clearing out the church, but everyone is now accounted for. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer also attended the press conference.
As I said, I'm here as the governor, but I'm also here as a fellow Michigander whose heart is breaking by another mass shooting in a place that is supposed to be defined by togetherness.
Whitmer said this is one of the many shootings that have occurred in recent years, including at schools, stores, parades, festivals, and houses of worship. She said she had spoken with President Trump, who offered his condolences. The attack is the second on an American church in little over a month. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
And the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, is now set to address senior military leaders at the Marine Corps base in Quantico, Virginia. Let's take a look.
Today, we have the unprecedented opportunity and honor to hear directly from the Secretary of War and our Commander-in-Chief. Together, you and I and our civilian leaders have the honor of leading the finest military in the world, and we must seize every opportunity every day to prepare our joint force for the future. I am deeply humbled to serve with each and every one of you. And now it is my distinct honor to introduce our nation's Secretary of War, the Honorable Pete Hegseth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Please take your seats. Well, Mr. Chairman, the Joint Chiefs, generals, admirals, commanders, officers, senior enlisted, NCOs, enlisted, and every member of our American military, good morning. Good morning and welcome to the War Department, because the era of the Department of Defense is over. You see, the motto of my first platoon was, "Those who long for peace must prepare for war." This is, of course, not a new idea. This crowd knows that. The origin dates to the 4th century Rome and has been repeated ever since, including by our first Commander-in-Chief, George Washington, the first leader of the War Department. It captures a simple yet profound truth. To ensure peace, we must prepare for war. From this moment forward, the only mission of the newly restored Department of War is this: warfighting, preparing for war and preparing to win, unrelenting and uncompromising in that pursuit. Not because we want war, no one here wants war, but it's because we love peace. We love peace for our fellow citizens. They deserve peace, and they rightfully expect us to deliver it. Our number one job, of course, is to be strong so that we can prevent war in the first place. The president talks about it all the time. It's called peace through strength. And as history teaches us, the only people who actually deserve peace are those who are willing to wage war to defend it. That's why pacifism is so naive and dangerous. It ignores human nature and it ignores human history. Either you protect your people and your sovereignty, or you will be subservient to something or someone. It's a truth as old as time. And since waging war is so costly in blood and treasure, we owe our republic a military that will win any war we choose, or any war that is thrust upon us. Should our enemies choose foolishly to challenge us, they will be crushed by the violence, precision, and ferocity of the War Department. In other words, to our enemies, F-A-F-O. If necessary, our troops can translate that for you. Another way to put it is peace through strength, brought to you by the warrior ethos. And we are restoring both. As President Trump has said, and he's right, we have the strongest, most powerful, most lethal, and most prepared military on the planet. That is true, full stop. Nobody can touch us. It's not even close. This is true largely because of the historic investments that he made in his first term, and we will continue in this term. But it's also true because of the leaders in this room and the incredible troops that you all lead. But the world, and as the chairman mentioned, our enemies get a vote. You feel it, I feel it. This is a moment of urgency, mounting urgency. Enemies gather, threats grow. There is no time for games. We must be prepared. If we're going to prevent and avoid war, we must prepare now. We are the strength part of peace through strength. And either we're ready to win or we are not. You see, this urgent moment, of course, requires more troops, more munitions, more drones, more Patriots, more submarines, more B-21 bombers. It requires more innovation, more AI in everything and ahead of the curve. More cyber effects, more counter-UAS, more space, more speed. America is the strongest, but we need to get stronger and quickly. The time is now, and the cause is urgent. The moment requires restoring and refocusing our defense industrial base, our shipbuilding industry, and onshoring all critical components. It requires, as President Trump has done, getting our allies and partners to step up and share the burden. America cannot do everything. The free world requires allies with real hard power, real military leadership, and real military capabilities. The War Department is tackling and prioritizing all of these things. And I'll be giving a speech next month that'll showcase the speed, innovation, and generational acquisition reforms we are undertaking urgently. Likewise, the nature of the threats we face in our hemisphere and in deterring China is another speech for another day, coming soon. This speech today, as I drink my coffee, this speech today is about people. And it's about culture. The topic today is about the nature of ourselves. Because no plan, no program, no reform, no formation will ultimately succeed unless we have the right people and the right culture at the War Department. If I've learned one core lesson in my 8 months in this job, it's that personnel is policy. Personnel is policy. The best way to take care of troops is to give them good leaders committed to the warfighting culture of the department. Not perfect leaders, good leaders. Competent, qualified, professional, agile, aggressive, innovative, risk-taking, apolitical, faithful to their oath and to the Constitution. Eugene Sledge, in his World War II memoir, wrote, quote, "War is brutish, inglorious, and a terrible waste. Combat leaves an indelible mark on those who are forced to endure it. The only redeeming factors are my comrades' incredible bravery and their devotion to each other." In combat, there are thousands of variables, as I learned in Iraq and Afghanistan, and as so many of you did in so many more places. Leaders can only control about 3 of them. You control how well you're trained, mostly how well you're equipped, and the last variable is how well you lead. After that, you're on your own. Our warfighters are entitled to be led by the best and most capable leaders. That is who we need you all to be. Even then, in combat, even if you do everything right, you may still lose people because the enemy always gets a vote. We have a sacred duty to ensure that our warriors are led by the most capable and qualified combat leaders. This is one thing you and I can control. And we owe it to the force to deliver it. For too long, we have simply not done that. The military has been forced by foolish and reckless politicians to focus on the wrong things. In many ways, this speech is about fixing decades of decay. Some of it obvious, some of it hidden. Or as the chairman has put it, we are clearing out the debris, removing the distractions, clearing the way for leaders to be leaders. You might say we're ending the war on warriors. I heard someone wrote a book about that. For too long, we've promoted too many uniformed leaders for the wrong reasons, based on their race, based on gender quotas, based on historic so-called firsts. We've pretended that combat arms and non-combat arms are the same thing. We've weeded out so-called toxic leaders under the guise of double-blind psychology assessments, promoting risk-averse, go-along-to-get-along conformists instead. You name it, the department did it. Foolish and reckless political leaders set the wrong compass heading, and we lost our way. We became the woke department, but not anymore. Right now, I'm looking out at a sea of Americans who made a choice when they were young men and young women to do something most Americans will not, to serve something greater than yourselves, to fight for God and country, for freedom and the Constitution. You made a choice to serve when others did not, and I commend you. You are truly the best of America. But this does not mean, and this goes for all of us, that our path to this auditorium on this day was a straight line, or that the conditions of the formations we lead are where we want them to be. You love your country, and we love this uniform, which is why we must do better. We just have to be honest. We have to say with our mouths what we see with our eyes, to just tell it like it is in plain English, to point out the obvious things right in front of us. That's what leaders must do. We cannot go another day without directly addressing the plank in our own eye, without addressing the problems in our own commands and in our own formations. This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department, to rip out the politics. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that shit. I've made it my mission to uproot the obvious distractions that made us less capable and less lethal. That said, the War Department requires the next step. Underneath the woke garbage is a deeper problem, and a more important problem that we are fixing and fixing fast. Common sense is back at the White House, so making the necessary changes is actually pretty straightforward. President Trump expects it. And the litmus test for these changes is pretty simple. Would I want my eldest son, who is 15 years old, eventually joining the types of formations that we are currently wielding? If in any way the answer to that is no, or even yes, but, then we're doing something wrong. Because my son is no more important than any other American citizen who dons the cloth of our nation. He is no more important than your son. All precious souls made in the image and likeness of God. Every parent deserves to know that their son or their daughter that joins our ranks is entering exactly the kind of unit that the Secretary of War would want his son to join. Think of it as the golden rule test. Jesus said, "Do unto others that which you would have done unto yourself." It's the ultimate simplifying test of truth. The new War Department golden rule is this: do unto your unit as you would have done unto your own child's unit. Would you want him serving with fat or unfit or undertrained troops? Or alongside people who can't meet basic standards? Or in a unit where standards were lowered so certain types of troops could make it in? In a unit where leaders were promoted for reasons other than merit, performance, and warfighting? The answer is not just no, it's hell no. This means at the War Department, first and foremost, we must restore a ruthless, dispassionate, and common sense application of standards. I don't want my son serving alongside troops who are out of shape, or in combat unit with females who can't meet the same combat arms physical standards as men, or troops who are not fully proficient on their assigned weapons, platform, or task, or under a leader who was the first but not the best. Standards must be uniform, gender neutral, and high. If not, they're not standards. They're just suggestions. Suggestions that get our sons and daughters killed. When it comes to combat arms units, and there are many different stripes across our joint force, the era of politically correct, overly sensitive, don't hurt anyone's feelings leadership ends right now. At every level, either you can meet the standard, either you can do the job, either you are disciplined, fit, and trained, or you are out. And that's why today, at my direction, and this is the first of 10 Department of War directives that are arriving at your commands as we speak and in your inbox. Today, at my direction, each service will ensure that every requirement for every combat MOS, for every designated combat arms position, returns to the highest male standard only. Because this job is life or death. Standards must be met. And not just met, at every level we should seek to exceed the standard, to push the envelope, to compete. It's common sense and core to who we are and what we do. It should be in our DNA. Today, at my direction, we are also adding a combat field test for combat arms units that must be executable in any environment at any time and with combat equipment. These tests, they'll look familiar. They'll resemble the Army Expert Physical Fitness Assessment or the Marine Corps Combat Fitness Test. I'm also directing that warfighters in combat jobs execute their service fitness test at a gender-neutral, age-normed male standard scored above 70%. It all starts with physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the joint force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our joint force is required to do PT every duty day. It should be common sense. I mean, most units do that already, but we're codifying it. And we're not talking like hot yoga and stretching. Real hard PT, either as a unit or as an individual. At every level, from the Joint Chiefs to everyone in this room to the youngest private, leaders set the standard. And so many of you do this already. Active, Guard, and Reserve. This also means grooming standards. No more beards, long hair, superficial individual expression. We're going to cut our hair, shave our beards, and adhere to standards. Because it's like the broken windows theory of policing. It's like when you let the small stuff go, the big stuff eventually goes. So you have to address the small stuff. This is on duty, in the field, and in the rear. If you want a beard, you can join Special Forces. If not, then shave. We don't have a military full of Nordic pagans. But unfortunately, we have had leaders who either refuse to call BS and enforce standards, or leaders who felt like they were not allowed to enforce standards. Both are unacceptable. And that's why today, at my direction, the era of unprofessional appearance is over. No more beardos. The era of rampant and ridiculous shaving profiles is done. Simply put, if you do not meet the male-level physical standards for combat positions, cannot pass a PT test, or don't want to shave and look professional, it's time for a new position or a new profession. I sincerely appreciate the proactive efforts the secretaries have already taken in some of those areas, service secretaries. And these directives are intended to simply accelerate those efforts. On the topic of standards, allow me a few words to talk about toxic leaders. Upholding and demanding high standards is not toxic. Enforcing high standards, not toxic leadership. Leading warfighters toward the goals of high, gender-neutral, and uncompromising standards in order to forge a cohesive, formidable, and lethal Department of War is not toxic. It is our duty, consistent with our constitutional oath. Real toxic leadership is endangering subordinates with low standards. Real toxic leadership is promoting people based on immutable characteristics or quotas instead of based on merit. Real toxic leadership is promoting destructive ideologies that are an anathema to the Constitution and the laws of nature and nature's God, as Thomas Jefferson wrote in the Declaration of Independence. The definition of toxic has been turned upside down, and we're correcting that. That's why today, at my direction, we're undertaking a full review of the department's definitions of so-called toxic leadership, bullying, and hazing, to empower leaders to enforce standards without fear of retribution or second guessing. Of course, you can't do like nasty bullying and hazing. We're talking about words like bullying and hazing and toxic. They've been weaponized and bastardized inside our formations, undercutting commanders and NCOs. No more. Setting, achieving, and maintaining high standards is what you all do. And if that makes me toxic, then so be it. Second, today at our direction, we're ensuring that every service, every unit, every schoolhouse, and every form of professional military education conduct an immediate review of their standards. Now, we've done this in many places already, but today it goes across the entire Department of War. Any place where tried and true physical standards were altered, especially since 2015 when combat arms standards were changed to ensure females could qualify, must be returned to their original standard. Other standards have been manipulated to hit racial quotas as well, which is just as unacceptable. This too must end. Merit only. The president talks about it all the time, merit-based. Here are two basic frameworks I urge you to pursue in this process. Standards I call, my staff's heard all about them, the 1990 test and the E6 test. The 1990s test is simple. What were the military standards in 1990? And if they have changed, tell me why. Was it a necessary change based on the evolving landscape of combat? Or was the change due to a softening, weakening, or gender-based pursuit of other priorities? 1990s seems to be as good a place to start as any. And the E6 test. Ask yourself, does what you're doing make the leadership, accountability, and lethality efforts of an E6, or frankly an 03, does it make it easier or more complicated? Does the change empower staff sergeants, petty officers, and tech sergeants to get back to basics? The answer should be a resounding yes. The E6 test, or 03 test, clarifies a lot, and it clarifies quickly. Because war does not care if you're a man or a woman. Neither does the enemy. Nor does the weight of your rucksack, the size of an artillery round, or the body weight of a casualty on the battlefield who must be carried. This, and I want to be very clear about this is not about preventing women from serving. We very much value the impact of female troops. Our female officers and NCOs are the absolute best in the world. But when it comes to any job that requires physical power to perform in combat, those physical standards must be high and gender neutral. If women can make it, excellent. If not, it is what it is. If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it. That is not the intent, but it could be the result. So be it. It will also mean that weak men won't qualify because we're not playing games. This is combat. This is life or death. As we all know, this is you versus an enemy hell-bent on killing you. To be an effective, lethal fighting force, you must trust that the warrior alongside you in battle is capable, truly physically capable of doing what is necessary under fire. You know this is the only standard you would want for your kids and for your grandkids. Apply the War Department Golden Rule, the 1990 test, and the E6 test, and it's really hard to go wrong. Third, we are attacking and ending the walking on eggshells and zero-defect command culture. A risk-averse culture means officers execute not to lose instead of to win. A risk-averse culture means NCOs are not empowered to enforce standards. Commanders and NCOs don't take necessary risks or make tough adjustments for fear of rocking the boat or making mistakes. A blemish-free record is what peacetime leaders covet the most, which is the worst of all incentives. We, as senior leaders, need to end the poisonous culture of risk aversion and empower our NCOs at all levels to enforce standards. Truth be told, for the most part, we don't need new standards. We just need to reestablish a culture where enforcing standards is possible. And that's why today, at my direction, I'm issuing new policies that will overhaul the IG, EO, and MEO processes. I call it the No More Walking on Eggshells policy. We are liberating commanders and NCOs. We are liberating you. We are overhauling an Inspector General process, the IG, that has been weaponized, putting complainers, ideologues, and poor performers in the driver's seat. We're doing the same with the equal opportunity and military equal opportunity policies, the EO and MEO at our department. No more frivolous complaints, no more anonymous complaints, no more repeat complainants, no more smearing reputations, no more endless waiting, no more legal limbo, no more sidetracking careers, no more walking on eggshells. Of course, being a racist has been illegal in our formation since 1948. The same goes for sexual harassment. Both are wrong and illegal. Those kinds of infractions will be ruthlessly enforced. But telling someone to shave or get a haircut or to get in shape or to fix their uniform or to show up on time or to work hard, that's exactly the kind of discrimination we want. We are not civilians. You are not civilians. You are set apart for a distinct purpose. So we as a department need to stop acting and thinking like civilians and get back to basics and put the power back in the hands of commanders and NCOs. Commanders and NCOs who make life and death decisions. Commanders and NCOs who enforce standards and ensure readiness. Commanders and NCOs who in this War Department have to look in the mirror and they have to pass the Golden Rule test. My kids, your kids, America's sons and daughters. So I urge you all here today and those watching, take this guidance and run with it. The core of this speech is the 10 directives we're announcing today. They were written for you, for Army leadership, for Navy leadership, for Marine Corps leadership, for Air Force leadership, Space Force leadership. These directives are designed to take the monkey off your back and put you, the leadership, back in the driver's seat. Move out with urgency because we have your back. I have your back. And the Commander-in-Chief has your back. And when we give you this guidance, we know mistakes will be made. It's the nature of leadership. But you should not pay for earnest mistakes for your entire career. And that's why today, at my direction, we're making changes to the retention of adverse information on personnel records that will allow leaders with forgivable, earnest, or minor infractions to not be encumbered by those infractions in perpetuity. People make honest mistakes, and our mistakes should not define an entire career. Otherwise, we only try not to make mistakes, and that's not the business we're in. We need risk takers and aggressive leaders and a culture that supports you. Fourth, at the War Department, promotions across the Joint Force will be based on one thing: merit. Colorblind, gender-neutral, merit-based. The entire promotion process, including evaluations of warfighting capabilities, is being thoroughly re-examined. We've already done a lot in this area, but more changes are coming soon. We'll promote top-performing officers and NCOs faster and get rid of poor performers more quickly. Evaluations, education, and field exercises will become real evaluations, not box checks, for every one of us at every level. These same reforms happened before World War II as well. General George Marshall and Secretary of War Henry Stimson did the same thing. And we won a world war because of it. As it happens, when he started the job, Chairman Kane gave me a frame and a photo to hang in my office. A matching frame and photo hangs in his. It's a photo of Marshall and Stimson preparing for World War II. Those two leaders famously kept the door open between their offices for the entirety of the war. They worked together, civilian and uniform, every single day. Chairman Kane and I do the same. There is no daylight between us. Our doors are always open. Our job together is to ensure our military is led by the very best, ready to answer the nation's call. Fifth, as you have seen, and the media has obsessed over, I have fired a number of senior officers since taking over. The previous chairman, other members of the Joint Chiefs, combatant commanders, and other commanders. The rationale for me has been straightforward. It's nearly impossible to change a culture with the same people who helped create or even benefited from that culture, even if that culture was created by a previous president and previous secretary. My approach has been simple. When in doubt, assess the situation, follow your gut, and if it's the best for the military, make a change. We all serve at the pleasure of the president every single day. But in many ways, it's not their fault. It's not your fault. As foolish and reckless as the woke department was, those officers were following elected political leadership. An entire generation of generals and admirals were told that they must parrot the insane fallacy that, quote, our diversity is our strength. Of course, we know our unity is our strength. They had to put out dizzying DEI and LGBTQI plus statements. They were told females and males are the same thing, or that males who think they're females is totally normal. They were told that we need a green fleet and electric tanks. They were told to kick out Americans who refused an emergency vaccine. They followed civilian policies set by foolish and reckless political leaders. Our job, my job, has been to determine which leaders simply did what they must to answer the prerogatives of civilian leadership, and which leaders are truly invested in the woke department, and therefore incapable of embracing the War Department and executing new lawful orders. That's it. It's that simple. So for the past 8 months, we've gotten a good look under the hood of our officer corps. We've done our best to thoroughly assess the human terrain. We've had to make trade-offs and some difficult decisions. It's more of an art than a science. We have been and will continue to be judicious, but also expeditious. The new compass heading is clear. Out with the Shirellis, the McKenzies, and the Millies, and in with the Stockdales, the Schwarzkopfs, and the Pattons. More leadership changes will be made, of that I'm certain. Not because we want to, but because we must. Once again, this is life and death. The sooner we have the right people, the sooner we can advance the right policies. Personnel is policy. But I look out at this group, and I see great Americans. Leaders who have given decades to our great republic at great sacrifice to yourselves and to your families. But if the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign. We would thank you for your service. But I suspect, I know, the overwhelming majority of you feel the opposite. These words make your hearts full. You love the War Department because you love what you do, the profession of arms. You are hereby liberated to be an apolitical, hard-charging, no-nonsense, constitutional leader that you joined the military to be. We need you locked in on the M, not the D, the E, or the I, not the DEI or the DIE of dime. By that I mean the M, military, of the instruments of national power. We have entire departments across the government dedicated to diplomatic, informational, and economic lines of effort. We do the M. Nobody else does. And our GoFos need to master it in every domain and every scenario. No more distractions, no more political ideologies, no more debris. Now, of course, we're going to disagree at times. We would not be Americans if we didn't. Being a leader in a large organization like ours means having frank conversations and differences of opinion. You will win some arguments, and you will lose some arguments. But when civilian leaders issue lawful orders, we execute. We are professionals in the profession of arms. Our entire constitutional system is predicated upon this understanding. Now, it seems like a small thing, but it's not. This includes as well the behavior of our troops online. To that end, I want to thank and recognize the services for their new proactive social media policies. Use them. Anonymous, online, or keyboard complaining is not worthy of a warrior. It's cowardice masquerading as conscience. Anonymous, unit-level social media pages that trash commanders, demoralize troops, and undermine unit cohesion must not be tolerated. Again, O3s, E6s. Sixth, we must train and we must maintain. Any moment that we are not training on our mission or maintaining our equipment is a moment we are less prepared for preventing or winning the next war. That is why today, at my direction, we are drastically reducing the ridiculous amount of mandatory training that individuals and units must execute. We've already ended the most egregious. Now we're giving you back real time. Less PowerPoint briefings and fewer online courses, more time in the motor pool, and more time on the range. Our job is to make sure you have the money, equipment, weapons, and parts to train and maintain, and then you take it from there. You all know this because it's common sense. The tougher and the higher the standards in our units, the higher the retention rates in those units. Warriors want to be challenged. Troops want to be tested. When you don't train and you don't maintain, you demoralize. And that's when our best people decide to take their talents to the civilian world. The leaders who created the woke department have already driven out too many hard chargers. We reverse that trend right now. There is no world in which high-intensity war exists without pain, agony, and human tragedy. We are in a dangerous line of work. You are in a dangerous line of work. We may lose good people. But let no warrior cry out from the grave, "If only I had been properly trained." We will not lose warfighters because we failed to train or equip them or resource them. Shame on us if we do. Train like your warriors' lives depend on it, because they do. To that point, basic training is being restored to what it should be: scary, tough, and disciplined. We're empowering drill sergeants to instill healthy fear in new recruits, ensuring that future warfighters are forged. Yes, they can shark attack, they can toss bunks, they can swear, and yes, they can put their hands on recruits. This does not mean they can be reckless or violate the law, but they can use tried and true methods to motivate new recruits to make them the warriors they need to be. Back to basics at basic as well. Of course, and you know this, basic training is not where mission readiness should end. The nature of the evolving threat environment demands that everyone in every job must be ready to join the fight if needed. A core credo of the Marine Corps is every Marine a rifleman. It means that everyone, regardless of MOS, is proficient enough to engage an enemy threat at sea, in the air, or in a so-called rear area. We need to ensure that every member of our uniformed military maintains baseline proficiency in basic combat skills, especially because the next war, like the last, will likely not have a rear area. Finally, as President Trump rightly pointed out when he changed the department name, the United States has not won a major theater war since the name was changed to the Department of Defense in 1947. One conflict stands out in stark contrast: the Gulf War. Why? Well, there's a number of reasons, but it was a limited mission with overwhelming force and a clear end state. But why did we execute and win the Gulf War the way we did in 1991? There's two overwhelming reasons. One was President Ronald Reagan's military buildup gave an overwhelming advantage. And two, military and Pentagon leadership had previous formative battlefield experiences. The men who led this department during the Gulf War were mostly combat veterans of the Vietnam War. They said never again to mission creep or nebulous end states. The same holds true today. Our civilian and military leadership is chock full of veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan who say never again to nation building and nebulous end states. This clear-eyed view, all the way in the White House, combined with President Trump's military buildup, postures us for future victories if, and we will, and when we embrace the War Department. And we must. We are preparing every day. We have to be prepared for war, not for defense. We're training warriors, not defenders. We fight wars to win, not to defend. Defense is something you do all the time. It's inherently reactionary and can lead to overuse, overreach, and mission creep. War is something you do sparingly, on our own terms, and with clear aims. We fight to win. We unleash overwhelming and punishing violence on the enemy. We also don't fight with stupid rules of engagement. We untie the hands of our warfighters to intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country. No more politically correct and overbearing rules of engagement. Just common sense, maximum lethality, and authority for warfighters. That's all I ever wanted as a platoon leader. And it's all my E6 squad leaders ever wanted, back to that E6 rule. We let our leaders fight their formations, and then we have their back. It's very simple, yet incredibly powerful. A few months ago, I was at the White House when President Trump announced his Liberation Day for America's trade policy. It was a landmark day. Well, today is another Liberation Day. The liberation of America's warriors, in name, in deed, and in authorities. You kill people and break things for a living. You are not politically correct and don't necessarily belong always in polite society. We are not an army of one. We are a joint force of millions of selfless Americans. We are warriors. We are purpose-built, not for fair weather, blue skies, or calm seas. We were built to load up in the back of helicopters, 5 tons, or Zodiacs in the dead of night, in fair weather or foul, to go to dangerous places, to find those who would do our nation harm, and deliver justice on behalf of the American people in close and brutal combat if necessary. You are different. We fight not because we hate what's in front of us. We fight because we love what's behind us. You see, the Ivy League faculty lounges will never understand us, and that's okay, because they could never do what you do. The media will mischaracterize us, and that's okay, because deep down they know the reason they can do what they do is you. In this profession, you feel comfortable inside the violence so that our citizens can live peacefully. Lethality is our calling card, and victory our only acceptable end state. In closing, a few weeks ago, at our monthly Pentagon Christian prayer service, I recited a commander's prayer. It's a simple yet meaningful prayer for wisdom for commanders and leaders. I encourage you to look it up if you've never seen it. But the prayer, it ends like this. And most of all, Lord, please keep my soldiers safe. Lead them, guide them, protect them, watch over them. And as you gave all of yourself for me, help me give all of myself for them. And amen. I have prayed this prayer many times since I've had the privilege of being your secretary. And I will continue to pray this prayer for each of you as you command and lead our nation's finest. Go forth and do good things, hard things. President Trump has your back, and so do I. And you'll hear from him shortly. Move out and draw fire, because we are the War Department. Godspeed.
Room, attention.
And that, of course, was the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, speaking at an unprecedented gathering of military leaders near Washington, declaring that the only mission of the Department of War is warfighting.
That's right. He touched on a number of things, but if you were to summarize it, he said the days of the Department of Woke are over. Welcome to the Department of War. He led with 4 main things that each person must meet standards, including physical standards, knowledge standards. They're going to be tested twice a year. The culture of risk aversion has to end, meaning people can't just cancel careers, and that promotions will be merit-based. Basically looking for a sea change in culture, saying that politics had subverted really the direction of what the Department of War stood for, and lethality is really their main goal. So quite a speech. We'll be dissecting it for days and weeks to come, but yeah, quite a moment.
Right. And in addition to that, President Trump will attend this gathering of top generals later this morning alongside Secretary of War Pete Hegseth.
That's right. He's expected to deliver his remarks, so stay here. We're going to certainly be covering that live as soon as it comes here on NTD.
And for our next segment, we are excited to welcome Jimmy Jean, a transformation leader and the author of The Purpose-Driven Influencer, a new book which offers a fresh take that real self-improvement starts with reclaiming identity, not chasing perfection. Such a great topic.
Yeah.
My gosh. Jimmy Jean, welcome. So good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and I mean, you yourself went through a big transformation.
Yeah.
You rose from being an overnight janitor to a luxury hospitality executive now.
Yeah.
And now you're sharing all about it with your book. So tell us a little about your personal story.
Yeah, you know, when I was an overnight janitor and an overnight houseman, you know, what that taught me was that nothing in our story is ever wasted, right? I think it was the training ground for everything that I'm doing now. It taught me humility. It taught me excellence. It also taught me that, that when you lead with heart, no matter what you do, no matter the job, I think great things begin to happen for you. And so I always say that, you know, my purpose never changed. My assignment is now different.
Now, that's very inspiring. And when we think about the next generation, I know you have a lot of advice for the next generation.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we see is this reliance on social media as sort of a reaction. Just let me look at my phone, but also that it's kind of causing almost a comparative quality? Like, what do the influencers say?
Yeah.
And you know, obviously there's good that comes out of, you know, social media, but there are also some negative aspects. What would you say to parents and children about social media and this sort of influencer culture?
Yeah, I would say that, you know, use social media as a tool for what you do, right? Don't let it become the source of who you are. And I think you want to set boundaries around social media. I always say that what has your attention has your life. And so you want to guard your focus. And so one of the things I do, I monitor what I'm consuming, right? I always tell people, ask yourself, what is your feed feeding you, right? And so if the content that you're consuming, if it's not adding to your joy, your peace, to your purpose, then that's not the content you should be consuming.
And this is so spot on because so many young people with such potential inside of them often feel shortchanged or something when they're looking at other people's feeds and their lives. And how does somebody step out of that and just recognize this isn't serving me?
Yeah. First, I want to say that comparison is the thief of joy. Right? Theodore Roosevelt said that, but comparison is also the thief of purpose. I think what you want to do is you want to run your own race. And whether you are a kid in high school or you're an adult like me, a millennial, you want to run your own race. You want to cancel out all the noise, and maybe you have to put the phone down, right? There were times where I had to take time off social media because it was impacting my mental health. I found myself comparing my journey, but it's not about comparison. It's about running your own race.
Now, what would you say to somebody that feels like there's a gap between where they are and where they want to be, so they feel like to close that gap, they have to constantly do more?
Yeah. Well, I think doing more does not make you more, right? I think what that is rooted in hustle culture, right? But I say you want to find alignment. And in my book, I talk about alignment is the new hustle. Right? It's not about trying to achieve more or doing more or being more productive, because you can do more and still don't produce the results that you want or don't find the fulfillment that you want. I think what we want to do is to seek alignment. How can we align to our true purpose, our true mission in life? And I think when you seek alignment, I think that's where you find fulfillment.
It's almost the harder work is the inner work.
Ooh,
I mean, how did you find that alignment for yourself, or how do you recommend people start out with that?
Yeah, so in the book, I talk about a principle called mastering your inner brand, right? There's the outer brand is the influencer persona, right? It's like having a nice bio. It's having the well-written captions, is the perfect photography, right? But the inner brand, which is, think of it as the foundation of the house. If the foundation of the house is not good, then nothing will stand, nothing will last. And so how you master your inner brand is, for me, I've done the inner work, whether it be through therapy, speaking to a life coach, reading books that can help me with my mental health, my soul, right? I believe that soul wealth is the new wealth. And so I think that is how you master your inner brand.
And then how do you find your mind, reset your mindset and sort of find that direction or purpose that's, you know, for each individual?
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody. I think your mind will always believe what you tell it, right? I believe that you got to feed it love, you got to feed it truth, you got to feed it purpose. And so this whole journey is really about replacing lies with truth. And that's the journey I've been on, and I think that's the real work that we all have to do, is replacing lies with truth.
And you've got such presence, you know, you've got such positivity, and you feel quite grounded here with us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I just, you know, I wonder if you have thoughts for people out there about daily habits to reinforce their own sense of presence and purpose in life.
Yeah, I think at the start of the day, right, you know, we have a tendency to get on our phones at the beginning of the day, right? We want to check in the world before we check in with ourselves. And I think the number one thing is that you want to set some boundaries for yourself and have some practices that's going to ground you. And for me, that's starting the day with gratitude. What can I be grateful for today? I'm grateful for being here today. I woke up this morning. I'm excited. The purpose-driven influencer is out today. I achieved this goal, but it's really about how can you stay grateful for what you have. And I think you said something about the gap, right? I think we have to be grateful for what we have while we pursue everything that we want. And if you can start your day with gratitude, I think that's a good place to begin.
Amazing. And where can people find your book and more info?
The Purpose-Driven Influence out today.
Yeah.
You can find it wherever books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, Walmart. It's out today.
Yeah, looking forward to hearing more about it and
Thank you so
about
much.
your success.
Thank
Jimmy
you.
Jean, great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and stay tuned for much more. We've got much more coming up after this break, so stick around. Look forward to speaking with you soon.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the #1 supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
People's reactions to me, people were like, what are you doing? What is going on? You look amazing. You have a glow about you.
What makes Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen stand out from other brands? 10 types of collagen. It's grass-fed, pasture-raised with vitamin C and probiotics. It's proven to reduce joint discomfort rapidly, continuously, and persistently. It improves the appearance of crow's feet after 4 weeks and improves skin tone after 8 weeks. And it promotes hair thickness, growth, and a reduction in hair breakage.
It has transformed everything from my hair. Like, my hair was starting to kind of just, come out, and I don't have that anymore. My skin feels amazing.
Call the number on your screen and find out how to get a free bottle when you order, plus free shipping and our 30-day money-back guarantee. And as a bonus, we will include Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin's revolutionary book, Multi-Collagen Makeover, free with your order, plus free shipping and free returns.
I have implicit trust in Dr. Axe because the plan worked. I am living proof of it.
This is the collagen protein that is backed by clinical studies. It's what my family uses, it's what I use, and I know you're gonna benefit in a big way as well.
Love the results or get your money back. This special TV offer is not available in stores. Call the number on your screen or go online now.
Whispered across generations, a hidden secret unveils the essence of longevity and vitality, a timeless legend regarding energy and wonder. Rooted in ancient health wisdom, we proudly introduce Pure Tang Black Ginseng, a 100% natural organic energy drink made from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng. It takes 2,260 days and nights from seed to growth, undergoing a meticulous 9-step process of steaming and drying. Black ginseng reaches its full potency, enriched with ginsenoside RG3 and enhanced absorption efficiency. No sugar, no caffeine, no artificial ingredients. Experience the pure, natural power of Pure Tang Black Ginseng. Nourish your body, strengthen your immunity, and boost your energy. To order Pure Tang Black Ginseng, please visit puretang.com.
Welcome back.
If you're just joining us now, here are some of today's top headlines.
With just hours left before the government shutdown deadline tonight, lawmakers remain deadlocked. Republicans are pushing a clean, continuing resolution to extend current funding for 7 weeks, giving Congress time to pass the full slate of appropriations bills. They say the plan already has bipartisan backing in the Senate. But Democrats are holding firm, refusing to support any bill that doesn't extend Affordable Care Act subsidies. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer warned the shutdown would happen, blaming the Republicans refusing to cooperate. If the shutdown happens, it will be a partial shutdown. Essential services like mail will be kept. In the event of a government shutdown, non-essential personnel are furloughed without pay, but will receive back pay when funding is restored. Service members would be required to work without pay during the shutdown. Social security checks will continue to be issued. President Trump this morning commented on the possible shutdown. Take a look.
Mr. President, if there is a shutdown, how many federal workers do you plan to lay off?
Well, we may do a lot, and that's only because of the Democrats. And as you know, they want to be able to take care of people that have come into our country illegally, and no system can handle that. And so we're totally opposed on that. But we can't take it. We just can't do it. I'd love to do everybody. I'd love to do the whole world. But our country can't handle people that come into our country illegally. And they want to give them full health care benefits. They want to open the wall again. Can you believe it? I can't even believe it. They want to open the wall. They haven't taken away boys playing in women's sports. They haven't done that. Men playing in women's sports. It's like they don't change. They lost an election in a landslide, and they don't change.
And global reactions to President Trump's Gaza peace plan are pouring in. Arab and Muslim nations welcome the effort, but stop short of fully endorsing it. The Palestinian Authority signaled it is ready to engage. Families of hostages called the moment historic, even as they remain cautious about the final outcome. Western leaders are urging Hamas terrorists to accept this proposal.
Louisiana is asking Washington for help with tackling violent crime. Governor Jeff Landry there has requested up to 1,000 National Guard members to support police in high crime areas. In contrast, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is rejecting federal troops in Chicago, calling it an unconstitutional occupation. And a violent attack on a pro-life activist in New York caught on video. But the charges are dropped after DA Alvin Bragg's office failed to file the paper on time.
NTD's Daniel Monahan spoke with Savannah Craven-Anto about the case.
Savannah Craven-Anto first got involved in the pro-life movement when she was in college.
I was going to a musical theater school here in New York and came across some videos about abortion, and I felt a call really from God to speak out against this injustice that detrimentally affects the Black community and minority communities.
She started working with a pro-life organization, but soon branched out on her own and founded the YouTube channel Her Patriot Voice. Anto was brutally assaulted in the streets of Harlem in April while conducting interviews about Planned Parenthood.
So we're asking people's opinion today on Planned Parenthood. Are you familiar with them? Breonna Rivers comes up, and she was very positive in the beginning. Obviously, I assumed we weren't going to agree. I mean, most people I come across in the street don't agree with me, and that's okay. That's why
the conversation started to get a bit heated.
You don't get to kill the baby just because their dad didn't want them. You can. Should we kill the kids in foster care? Why not?
Rivers violently assaulted her soon after. Rivers was charged with second-degree assault by the office of DA Alvin Bragg, who prosecuted President Trump. But the court dismissed the case in July after Bragg's office missed the deadline for turning over evidence. The DA's office confirmed that it dropped the ball, calling it an unacceptable error, adding that it is taking immediate internal steps in light of the botched case.
These district attorneys, anyone involved in law enforcement, they're supposed to promise one thing, and that is justice. Politics, religion, these types of things should not get involved. Personal opinions, that should not matter. What happened to me was completely illegal. It was completely unprovoked. And I was just exercising my First Amendment right.
Adding insult to injury, Anto says Rivers has been boasting about the assault.
I have 6 months of evidence of my attacker bragging, making jokes, and wishing that she could hit me again. I mean, she was liking Instagram comments saying you should have hit that girl harder. You know, oh, she effed around and she found out.
Anto says she's very grateful that God has used this opportunity for good, that it has finally got her voice out there to stand up for babies and for Christianity.
But it's also come with a lot of backlash. You know, thousands and thousands of DMs, comments, emails of people telling me that I deserved it, that I deserved to die. And
the pro-life activist says her case sends 2 messages.
And that we can't depend on our justice system to bring justice. I mean, we can't depend on them to actually do what they're supposed to do, what they're there for us to do. And so the other message I think that it sends, hopefully with the fact that I have not stopped speaking out, that I've only continued to go out there and share my story is that I hope that they don't back down. I hope that this doesn't make them feel like they have to be silent and not speak out for what they believe in.
And Tao also commented on the recent arrest of 75-year-old Rose Doherty for holding a sign outside an abortion clinic.
Well, I wasn't approaching anyone, I wasn't handing out any leaflets, I wasn't doing anything that in my mind contravenes your buffer zone.
In Scotland, buffer zones are enforced within 200 meters of every hospital, forbidding so-called influencing of anyone seeking to access abortion services. And Tao bemoans what she sees as the unequal application of justice, where career criminals are let off the hook again and again, while police lock up grandmas for praying, bringing up the case of Irina Zaruska's alleged killer.
People like her killer are let out of jail multiple times, but you're going to arrest and try to prosecute a 75-year-old woman for standing outside of an abortion facility and praying? That's the world that we're living in. And again, I keep repeating this. I do believe it's a spiritual battle. It's an attack on faith. It's an attack on the fact that they know that we're making a difference just with our presence.
Powerful interview there by Daniel Monahan. We're going to jump to a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now. With your gift of $19 a month, we'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the #1 supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
People's reactions to me, people were like, what are you doing? What is going on? You look amazing. You have a glow about you.
What makes Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen stand out from other brands? 10 types of collagen. It's grass-fed, pasture-raised with vitamin C and probiotics. It's proven to reduce joint discomfort rapidly, continuously, and persistently. It improves the appearance of crow's feet after 4 weeks and improves skin tone after 8 weeks. And it promotes hair thickness, growth, and a reduction in hair breakage.
It has transformed everything from my hair. Like, my hair was starting to kind of just, come out, and I don't have that anymore. My skin feels amazing.
Call the number on your screen and find out how to get a free bottle when you order, plus free shipping and our 30-day money-back guarantee. And as a bonus, we will include Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin's revolutionary book, Multi-Collagen Makeover, free with your order, plus free shipping and free returns.
I have implicit trust in Dr. Axe because the plan worked. I'm living proof of it.
This is the collagen protein that is backed by clinical studies. It's what my family uses, it's what I use, and I know you're going to benefit in a big way as well.
Love the results or get your money back. This special TV offer is not available in stores. Call the number on your screen or go online now.
Welcome back to NTD Good Morning. Severe weather is posing a double threat to the Caribbean and the U.S. East Coast.
Tropical storm Imelda is gaining strength, and the National Hurricane Center predicts it's going to become a hurricane today.
Forecasters warn of rip currents, dangerous surf, beach erosion, and flooding along the coast. Cuba's prime minister said yesterday that 2 people died after Imelda struck the island.
Meanwhile, Hurricane Humberto is churning as a major hurricane in the Atlantic, though forecasters say, fortunately, it's not going to reach land.
Forecasters are also saying the two systems could start rotating around each other as they get closer, leading to what's known as the Fujiwara effect.
North and South Carolina both issued states of emergency ahead of the storms. South Carolina lifted its emergency warning yesterday.
And now to the church shooting in Michigan. As we learn more about the suspect, authorities are looking into possible motives after 4 people were killed in that attack.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said on Fox News that FBI Director Kash Patel described the suspect as someone who, quote, hated people of the Mormon faith. She added that search warrants are now being executed at the suspect's home and that investigators are working to determine why he would commit such, quote, such an act of evil. Here's NTD's Arlene Richards with the details.
Several investigators on Monday said they are focused on finding out what motivated a former Marine to allegedly ram a pickup truck into a church and open fire. Authorities say the suspect, identified as Thomas Jacob Sanford, age 40, plowed through the front door and began shooting with a semi-automatic rifle. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Michigan was in the middle of a crowded service at the time of the shooting. According to an official from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, the attacker apparently used gasoline to start a fire, setting the church ablaze. 4 people were killed and 8 were injured, 2 of whom are still in critical condition. At a news conference Monday, the acting head of the FBI Detroit field office said they were working together with all levels of government, local, state, and federal.
The FBI is investigating this as an act of targeted violence, and we are continuing to work to determine a motive. In the past 24 hours, our investigative squads and specialty teams have been out all night, exhausting leads, some of which have been coming in from the public via tips.
He said his office is getting assistance from other field offices across the country. According to the local police chief, they are still clearing out the church, but everyone is now accounted for. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer also attended the press conference.
As I said, I'm here as the governor, but I'm also here as a fellow Michigander whose heart is breaking by another mass shooting in a place that is supposed to be defined by togetherness.
Whitmer said this is one of the many shootings that have occurred in recent years, including at schools, stores, parades, festivals, and houses of worship. She said she had spoken with President Trump, who offered his condolences. The attack is the second on an American church in little over a month. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
And we're going to take you live. President Trump about to take the stage now.
Anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank, there goes your future. But you just feel nice and loose, okay? Because we're all on the same team. And I was told that, sir, you won't hear a murmur in the room. I said, we got to loosen these guys up a little bit. So you just have a good time. But I want to thank Secretary Hegseth and General Kane, General Raisin Kane for a reason, they call him that. When I heard his name, I said, you're the guy I'm looking for. The Joint Chiefs of Staff and so many others in this room who together represent the greatest and most elite fighting force in the history of the world, the United States military. We're very proud of our military. I rebuilt the military during my first term. It's one of the greatest achievements. We had the greatest economy in history, and I built the military. Those are the 2 things I say more than anything else. And I also kept us safe at the borders. We had very good borders. We didn't have people coming in from jails and prisons and everything like took place over the last 4 years. They'll never forget what happened to this country over the last 4 years with the incompetence. There could be no higher honor than to serve as your commander-in-chief. It is a great honor. I look at you, you're just incredible people. Central casting, I might add. To each and every one of you, I thank you for your unwavering devotion to the armed forces and to the country that we've all sworn a sacred oath to defend. We all have that oath, every one of us. I'm thrilled to be here this morning to address the senior leadership of what is once again known around the world as the Department of War. I know Pete spoke about it. He gave a great speech, I thought. Great speech. I don't want him to get so good. I hate that. You know? No, I hate it. I almost fired him. I said, You can't. I don't want to go on after that. No, he gave a great speech, but he talked about Department of War. We were sitting there. I said, didn't it used to be called the Department of War? And he goes, yes, sir. They changed it like in the early 50s. So we won the First World War. We won the Second World War. We won everything in between and everything before that. We only won. And then we went, in a way, woke. That was probably the first sign of wokeness. And we changed it to defense instead of war. And I said, what do you think? How do you think if we changed it back? Would that be a nice idea? And Pete loved it immediately. Some people thought about it. You know, they gave it a little thought. But in the end, we did it. And I have to be honest, it's so popular. I thought it would be met with fury on the left. But they're sort of giving up, I must be honest with you. They've had it. They've had it with Trump. They've been after me for so many years now. Here we are. Here we are. Come to the White House anytime you'd like. No, they've given up. They're bad, a lot of bad people. But all over, it's been so popular. It's been very popular. I really thought that we were going to have to sort of fight it through. There's been no fight. There's been no fight. Like what I called the Gulf of America, the Gulf of America, because to me it was always the Gulf of America. I could never understand. We have 92% of the frontage. And for years, actually 350 years, they were there before us. It was called the Gulf of Mexico. I just had this idea. I'm looking at a map. I'm saying, we have most of the frontage. Why is it Gulf of Mexico? Why isn't it the Gulf of America? And I made the change, and it went smoothly. I mean, we had a couple of fake news outlets that refused to make the change. And then one of them, AP, took us to court, and we won. And the judge, who was a somewhat liberal judge, said, the name is the Gulf of America, because AP refused to call it the Gulf of America. They wrote, they're not a good outfit, by the way. They call it the Gulf of Mexico. I said, no, the Gulf of America is the name. And the judge actually said that, in fact, you can't even go into the room because what you're doing is not appropriate. The name is the Gulf of America. Google Maps changed the name. Everybody did, but AP wouldn't. And then we won in court. How about that? Isn't that so cool? The Secretary Hegseth beautifully described the name change reflects far more than the shift in branding. It's really a historic reassertion of our purpose and our identity and our pride. That's when we go with the word war. And, you know, we want war because we want to have no wars. I have to do it. I have settled so many wars since we're here. We're here almost 9 months, and I've settled 7. And yesterday we might have settled the biggest of them all, although I don't know. Pakistan, India was very big. Both nuclear powers, I settled that. But yesterday could be the settlement in the Middle East. That hasn't happened for 3,000 years. I said, how long have you been fighting? 3,000 years, sir. That's a long time. But we got it, I think, settled. We'll see. Hamas has to agree. And if they don't, it's going to be very tough on them. But it is what it is. But all of the Arab nations, Muslim nations have agreed. Israel has agreed. It's an amazing thing. It just came together. War is very strange, you know. You never know what's going to happen with war. The easiest one of them all is Putin. I said, number one, it's a war that would have never happened if I were president, if the election weren't rigged. If I were president, that war would have never happened. Not even a little chance. And it didn't happen for 4 years. But I knew Putin very well, and I thought that would be easy because I know him so well. Well, that one turned out to be the hardest of them all. We had some that were not settlable, and they all got settled. So if this works out that we did yesterday with the Middle East, then that's more than a war. That's lots of wars. That's all combined. That's a lot of wars. Many of you were over there in many different capacities in many different countries. That's a big part of the earth. But if that works out, it would be 8+. I could give myself 2 or 3 for that one. And then we just have the one to settle, and we have to settle it up with President Putin. And Zelensky, got to get them together and get it done. But the only way we can do that is through strength. I mean, if we were weak, they wouldn't even take my phone call. But we have extreme strength. We had the horror show in Afghanistan, which is really the reason I think that Putin went in. He saw that horror show by Biden and his team of incompetent people. And that showed, I think it gave them a path in. I wasn't there any longer. I watched that, and it was so horrible. I think it was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. And now we're back. And that's it. We're not going to have any of that crap happen, I can tell you. That was terrible, so terrible. Together we're reawakening the warrior spirit, and this is a spirit that won and built this nation. And from the cavalry that tamed the Great Plains to the ferocious, unyielding power of Patton Bradley and the great General Douglas MacArthur, these are all great men. In this effort, we're a team, and so my message to you is very simple. I am with you, I support you, and as president, I have your backs 100%. You'll never see me even waver a little bit. It's the way it is. And that includes our great police officers and firemen and all of these people that are doing so well. Together over the next few years, we're going to make our military stronger, tougher, faster, fiercer, and more powerful than it has ever been before. I rebuilt our nuclear, as you probably know, but we'll upgrade that also and just hope we never have to use it. We have to hope we never have to use it, because the power of that is so incredible. I see things, I don't think they'd show it to you. I really wouldn't want them to show it to you. But when you see the result of what's left, you never want to use that. Never, never, ever. We were a little bit threatened by Russia recently, and I sent a submarine, nuclear submarine, the most lethal weapon ever made. Number one, you can't detect it. There's no way. We're 25 years ahead of Russia and China in submarines. Russia's actually second in submarines. China's third, but they're coming up. They're coming up. They're way lower in nuclear too, but in 5 years they'll be equal. They're coming up. And you don't have to be that good with nuclear. You could have 1/20th what you have now and still do the damage that would be, that'd be so horrendous. But I announced that, based on his mention of nuclear, and it was really a stupid person that works for him mentioned the word nuclear, I moved a submarine or two, I won't say about the two, over to the coast of Russia, just to be careful, because we can't let people throw around that word. I call it the N-word. There are two N-words, and you can't use either of them. You can't use either of them. And frankly, if it does get to use, we have more than anybody else. We have better, we have newer, but it's something we don't ever want to even have to think about. But when somebody mentions it, that submarine started immediately thereafter. And it's just lurking, but I'm sure we're not going to have to use it. But it's an amazing, it's undetectable, totally. Ours is, theirs isn't. Theirs are totally detectable. We can detect them easily. We go right to the spot. But we have genius apparatus that doesn't allow detection. It doesn't allow detection at all by anybody above water or below water. It's incredible. We're way ahead of everybody in that and other things. As a result of the exciting renewal of the spirit of our armed forces, and that's what it is. It's really reaching that spirit, unprecedented heights. Over the past 8 months, new enlistments, I'm so proud of this, have surged to record highs, the highest we've ever had. And we used to have recruiting shortages. If you remember, about a year and a half ago, I was at the beginning stage of a campaign, and things came out that you couldn't get people to join the armed forces. And by the way, the police also. Fire department. I always put the fire department in because they're great. They're great. And I got 95% of their vote, too. That helps. When you get 95% of their vote, you always have to mention them. But they're great. And they're brave in our inner cities, which we're going to be talking about, because it's a big part of war now. It's a big part of war. But the firemen go up on ladders, and you have people shooting at them while they're up on ladders. I don't even know if anybody heard that. But And I said, don't talk about it much, but I think you have to. Our firemen are incredible. They're up in one of these ladders that goes way up to the sky, rescuing people, and you have animals shooting at them, shooting bullets at firemen that are way up in death territory. You fall off that ladder, it's over. It's over. They don't even have to inspect you when you hit the ground. And you have people shooting bullets at them in some of these inner cities. We're not going to let that happen. So I always mention the firemen because that's actually a big problem we have. They are unbelievable. Like you, they're unbelievable people. For the first time on record in 2025, the Navy, Air Force, and Space Force all met or surpassed their recruiting goals 3 months early. That never happened before. And the Army did even better. Congratulations, Army. They met everything. And these were the highest standards because we're making it larger. So these were much higher standards than you had 4 years ago, 3 years ago, during the sleepy Joe Biden era. And the Army did it 4 months early. And you remember, a year and a half ago, they said the big stories that we're way behind with the Army, Air Force, the Navy, the Marines. We're way behind, Coast Guard, and even Space Force. I love Space Force because that was my creation. You know, when you create something, I love it. And the people we put in there were good. I got that right. We put in great people initially, and we've really dominated. We really dominate in that sphere now. We're way behind China and Russia, and now we dominate. Space Force turned out to be a very important thing. I said from the beginning, you know, when Biden came into office, he wanted to terminate it. He said, and this thing called Space Force, so we could get rid of that. And he got hammered by the people in this room for even suggesting it, because it's very important, one of the most important. And as time goes by, it'll get more and more important. But we're now at 106% of our recruiting targets for the year, and that's the best in far more than a generation. And for the Marines, morale is so strong that the Marine Corps will meet its 2026 retention targets before the end of October, which never happens. And that's the earliest it's ever happened in the history of our country. And it makes you feel good, you know. I felt guilty. I'd go make a speech in front of never people like you. You are the leaders, but people, soldiers. And I felt embarrassed because there'd be stories about, you know, we couldn't fill up our Army, Navy, Air Force. We couldn't fill them up. And it was headlines. It was during Biden's 4 years. The auto pen, I call him the auto pen. It's, how would you like to have your thing signed by an auto pen? You know, when I have a general and I have to sign for a general because we have beautiful paper, the gorgeous paper, I said, throw a little more gold on it. They deserve it. I want the A paper, not the D paper. We used to sign a piece of garbage. I said, this man's going to be a general, right? Yeah. I don't want to use this. I want to use the big, beautiful, firm paper. I want to use the real gold writing when you talk about the position, and they're beautiful. And, but how would you like to have that where some kid sitting in the back office is having it signed with an auto pen? I thought about it, and I thought about you people first, admirals, generals. I said, somebody works his whole life. He gets into maybe the academies or wherever, but however you got there, and you go through years of work, and now you become an admiral or a general or whatever. And when you do, the President of the United States signs your commission, as you know, and that commission is beautifully displayed. And I sign it. Actually, I love my signature. I really do. Everyone loves my signature. But I signed it very proudly, and I always think to myself, how can you have an auto pen sign this? It's just so disrespectful. To me, it's just totally disrespectful. And it turned out that almost everything he did was signed by auto pen, except for when he gave his son, Hunter, pardon. He signed that one. And that's actually the worst signature I've ever seen. That was the bad. The auto pen looks much better. But as leaders, our commitment to every patriot who put on the uniform is to ensure that American military remains the most lethal and dominant on the planet, not merely for a few years, but for the decades and generations to come, for centuries. We must be so strong that no nation will dare challenge us, so powerful that no enemy will dare threaten us, and so capable that no adversary can even think about beating us. And we've had it recently. I had India and Pakistan were going at it, and I called them both. And in this case, I used trade. I'm not going to trade with you. Used to two nuclear nations, big nuclear. And no, you cannot do that. I said, yes, I can. You go into this frickin' war that I'm hearing about. You know, actually, they just shot down 7 planes. 7 planes, it was starting. There's a lot of bad blood. And I said, you do this, there's not going to be any trade. And I stopped the war. It was raging for 4 days, but that was just the beginning. And we stopped it. It was a great thing. And the Prime Minister of Pakistan was here, along with the Field Marshal, who's a very important guy in Pakistan. And he was here 3 days ago. And I didn't even realize it as beautiful as he said it, but he said that to a group of people that were with us, 2 generals, but a group, he said, this man saved millions of lives because he saved the war from going on. And that war was going to get very bad, very, very bad. President Trump saved millions and millions of lives. That was a bad war. And I was very honored. I loved the way he said it. Susie Wiles was there. She said that was the most beautiful thing. But we saved a lot of them. We saved a lot of them. Even in Africa, we saved the Congo with Rwanda. They've been fighting for 31 years, 10 million people dead. I got that one done, and very proud of it. So if this works out, we'll have 8 in 8 months. That's pretty good. Nobody's ever done that. Will you get the Nobel Prize? Absolutely not. They'll give it to some guy that didn't do a damn thing. They'll give it to a guy that wrote a book about the mind of Donald Trump and what it took to solve the wars. And he'll get the Nobel Prize will go to a writer. No, but well, let's see what happens. But it's be a big insult to our country. I will tell you that. I don't want it. I want the country to get it. But it should get it because there's never been anything like it. Think of it. So if this happens, I think it will. I don't say that lightly because I know more about deals than anybody. This is what my whole life was based on. And they can change, and this can certainly change. But we have just about everybody. We have one signature that we need, and that signature will pay in hell if they don't sign. I hope they sign for their own good and we create something really great. But to have done 8 of them is just like such an honor. And then we have Putin and Zelensky. The easiest one of them all. I said, that one I'll get done. I thought that was going to be first. The other was much harder, some of them. Azerbaijan this was going on for 36 years. They said, it's not solvable, sir. You don't do it. I said, I will do it. I will do it. And I got on the phone with the 2 countries. They were great. They were great. I knew immediately. I knew as soon as I started talking to them, we're going to solve that war. We did. Now they're so happy. Now they're friends. One said he's been president for 32 years, 22 years. He said, for 22 years, I did nothing but kill his people. They were in the room together at the Oval Office. And they started off spread like this. I have the beautiful Resolute desk. And one was here, and one was here. You couldn't get further away. That's the furthest I've ever seen 2 people in front of me. And as the hour went by, they got closer, closer, closer. And at the end of the hour, we had it done. And they hugged and hugged and hugged. And I said, that's so nice, and you're going to remain friends. And I spoke to them, one of them the other day. He said, no, he's now my friend. But for 22 years, he's been the head of Azerbaijan for 22 years. And the other guy, great guy too, 7. And that war, that was a war that was not solvable. He said for 7 years. The other one said for 22 years. All I did was kill his people. That's all I've done. I said, well, we're going to put a stop to that. So we solved that. So it's a great thing. It's a great feeling. You're saving Kosovo and Serbia. You're saving so many lives doing this if you can do it. But our people deserve nothing less than the very best, and we're never going to let them down. And if we can solve wars instead of you having to fight wars, wouldn't that be wonderful, right? Wouldn't that be wonderful? That's why one of the first executive orders I signed upon taking office was to restore the principle of merit. That's the most important word, other than the word tariff. I love tariffs. Most beautiful word. But I'm not allowed to say that anymore. I said tariff is my favorite word. I love the word tariff. You know, we're becoming rich as hell. We have a big case in front of the Supreme Court, but I can't imagine, because this is what other nations have done to us. And we have, you know, great legal grounds, but you still have a case. It would be very bad if something happened. But I said, my favorite word in the English dictionary is the word tariff. And people thought that was strange. And the fake news came over and they really hit me hard on it. They said, what about love? What about religion? What about God? What about wife, family? I got killed when I said tariff is my favorite word. So I changed it. It's now my fifth favorite word. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But they hit me hard. But it is. I mean, when you look at, we've taken in trillions of dollars. We're rich again. And there'll never be, when we finish this out, there'll never be any wealth like what we have. Other countries were taking advantage of us for years and years. You know that better than anybody. And now we're treating them fairly. But the money coming in is, we've never seen anything like it. The other day they had $31 billion that they found, $31 billion. So we found $31 billion and we're not sure from where it came. A gentleman came in, a financial guy. I said, well, what does that mean? He said, we don't know where it came. I said, check the tariff shelf. No, sir, the tariffs haven't started in that sector yet. I said, yes, they have. They started 7 weeks ago. Check it. Comes back 20 minutes later. Sir, you're right. It came from tariffs. $31 billion. That's enough to buy a lot of battleships, Admiral, to use an old term. I think we should maybe start thinking about battleships, by the way. You know, we have a Secretary of the Navy came to me, because I look at the Iowa out in California, and I look at different ships and the old pictures. I used to watch Victory at Sea. I love Victory at Sea. Look at these admirals. It's got to be your all-time in black and white. And I look at those ships. They came with the destroyers alongside of them, and man, nothing was going to stop. They were 20 deep, and they were in a straight line, and there was nothing going to stop them. And we actually talk about, you know, those ships. Some people would say, no, that's old technology. I don't know. I don't think it's old technology when you look at those guns. But it's something we're actually considering, the concept of battleship. Nice 6-inch sides, solid steel, not aluminum that melts if it looks at a missile coming at it. Starts melting as the missile's about 2 miles away. Now, those ships, they don't make them that way anymore. But you look at it, and your secretary likes it, and I'm sort of open to it. And bullets are a lot less expensive than missiles. A lot of reasons. I should take a vote, but I'm afraid to take that vote because I may get voted out on that one. But I tell you, it's something we're seriously considering. There were powers. There were big powers. They were just about as mean and scary as you could be. And so we're looking at that. One of the biggest cases that we won was the decision of the United States Supreme Court to allow us to proceed on the word merit. Merit. So those two words are right up there. So this is, I would say, the opposite if you ask for a definition. The opposite of political correctness. We went through political correct where you had to have people that were totally unfit to be doing what you're doing for many reasons. I won't get into them. But for many reasons, they were unfit. Now, it's all based on merit. That was such an unbelievable decision. I didn't expect we were going to win that one. We went in. We said we needed it. We went in for colleges, you know, where kids with a C average are getting into the best colleges, and the kids with A averages won't get in. And kids with the highest boards and the highest marks and the best marks couldn't get into the best schools. And people that had not good boards and not very good marks, I mean, okay, but nothing special, they were getting into our best colleges. I said, this is just crazy. You can't run a country like this. And it was lingering for years, and it got to the Supreme Court, and we won that decision. Merit, everything's based on merit. You're all based on merit. We're not going to have somebody taking your place for political reasons because they are politically correct and you're not. We take the people that are going to do the best job. That's all. It's very simple. And that's the way our country was built. We were built on merit. We got away from it for a long time. And everyone understands it. And it was done. It was approved. I give great credit to the Supreme Court because I thought they had tremendous courage. I didn't think they'd do that. That was tremendous. I give them maybe for that decision almost more than anything because it's a hard decision to make. It's really hard. The apparatus of our country was not set up for merit. It was set up for political correctness. And you can never be great if you're going to do that. And we're going to be greater than we ever were before. We're bringing back a focus on fitness, ability, character, and strength. And that's because the purposes of American military is not to protect anyone's feelings. It's to protect our republic. And it's the republic that we dearly love. It's to protect our country. We will not be politically correct when it comes to defending American freedom, and we will be a fighting and winning machine. We want to fight, we want to win, and we want to fight as little as possible. You have to count on people like me to keep you out of wars because we don't want to go into wars. Many of the wars that I just told you about, we could have entered those wars and settled them in a different way, lose a lot of our troops. And we could have settled them, I guess, differently. Maybe not, actually. Actually, you might not have been able to settle them. We just would have been in the middle of a lot of firepower. But when we do need it, you're going to be so ready. And you know it. But very importantly, with that goal in mind, I've committed to spending over $1 trillion on our military in 2026, and that's the most in the history of our country. $1 trillion, that's a lot of money. I hope you like that. Ma'ams and sirs, I hope you like it. That's a hell of a lot of money. We have the best of everything. Every branch is seeing major investments, and as I announced in the Oval Office in March, we are rapidly moving forward with the first ever 6th generation fighter jet. I didn't name it. I did not name it. Boeing came in and they said, sir, this is our submittal. It's the greatest fighting jet ever done. And, you know, they're testing all these planes. All the companies are testing, and this one tested like through the roof. And they said, we'd like to name it the F-47. I said, all right, let me think about it. Then after thinking for about 2 seconds, I said, okay. You know what that means, 47? I'm 47. So I'm 45, 46, and 47, you know, if you think about it. I just don't want the credit for 46. I don't want to have their open borders and people coming in from all over the world, including jails and mental institutes. I don't want that on my record, but I like having it. We're investing tens of billions of dollars in modernizing our nuclear deterrence capabilities like never before. And we've begun construction on what we call the Golden Dome missile defense shield. It'll be the most sophisticated in the world. You watched it do well until they had some problems at the end with a little bit of a lack of ammunition, defensive ammunition, but they've got that taken care of. But I tell you, it's what we're doing is so good, and we deserve it. You know, we help other countries with it. We don't have it ourselves. And Canada called me a couple of weeks ago. They want to be part of it. To which I said, well, why don't you just join our country? You become 51, become the 51st state, and you get it for free. So I don't know if that made a big impact, but it does make a lot of sense. It actually makes, because they're having a hard time up there in Canada now, because as you know, with tariffs, everyone's coming into our country. We have more investment than we've ever had before, $17 trillion coming in. As an example, in 4 years, Biden didn't have $1 trillion. We have 17 trillion more than that in 8 months coming in. And they're coming in from Canada, Mexico, from Europe, from all over. AI, auto plants. Everybody's coming back to the United States. Under my budget, we will be expanding the U.S. Navy by at least 19 ships next year, including submarines, destroyers, assault ships, and more. And it's going to be much more than that as we go along. because we basically don't build ships anymore. We do build submarines, but we don't build ships. Do you know in the Second World War, they were freighters and different types, but we were doing a ship a day, and now we don't do ships. And I'm not a fan of some of the ships you do. I'm a very aesthetic person, and I don't like some of the ships you're doing aesthetically. They say, oh, it's stealth. I said, that's not stealth. An ugly ship is not necessary in order to say you're stealth. By the way, the B-2 bombers were incredible. That is stealth. They went into that. I was with General Kane and Pete were in we call it the war room, but we're watching them go in, and they were totally untouched. They were not seen. They were literally not seen. They dropped their bombs. They hit every single one of them, hit its target. It was total obliteration. CNN, when we came back, fake news CNN, oh, their camera just went off. Look, you know, their camera, every time I mention them, they turn the camera off because it's never good. They say, this is a problem. But I don't blame them. You're better off keeping it off. But they have some scammer reporter who started saying, without any knowledge, that he may not have hit the targets as well as they thought. It may not have been obliteration.
All right, we have to wrap up our show now, but be sure to stay tuned for NTD News Today with Alice Tong at 10 a.m. Eastern coming up shortly.
And for round-the-clock original news coverage, you can always visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app. Thanks for watching. I'm Stephanie Cox.
I'm Carrie Dunst. We'll see you soon.